Chapter 4169. Lord, he has humiliated our God clan. If we don't dare to accept the challenge, wouldn't that be tantamount to admitting that the younger generation of the God clan is trash? If so, how will the world talk about us behind our backs in the future? So Lord, please allow us to fight with him. Jiang Chun bowed and asked for permission to fight. That's right. That's a man with guts. If you don't even have the courage to fight, I'm afraid you can't even be considered trash. The inner demon smirked. His attitude was arrogant to the extreme. Lu Jijin was still the same as before. He crossed his arms and stood silently at the side, looking like a bystander. All right. The Divine King looked at Jiang Chun and the rest. Seeing that this group of young people had a determined attitude, he couldn't help but nod gently. Then, he looked at the inner demons and said, "But let's say this first. Don't go too far. Of course, I won't even activate the will of the heavenly path." The inner demons nodded. The Divine King raised his eyebrows. It seemed like he was giving in, but in fact, he was humiliating the God clan. Why don't I see Zhang Yunshuang? Could it be that the rumors are true and he was killed by Qin Feiyang? The inner demons looked at the group of people mockingly. Shut up. Jiang Chun and Jiang Xing took a step forward and instantly activated all their ultimate profound meanings. Now both of them had mastered the ultimate profound meanings of two ultimate laws. Moreover, with the mark of the God clan, they could erupt with lethality that surpassed the ultimate profound meanings. Seems like I've poked your sore spot. The inner demons grinned. Although he said he would stop, he didn't show any mercy. The ultimate profound meanings of all 6 ultimate laws were activated. The will of the heavenly path suddenly erupted. Boom! In just an instant, the two of them were seriously injured and couldn't fight back. That's it? The inner demons was stunned. His tone was full of mockery. Didn't you say you won't activate the will of the heavenly path? Jiang Chun roared. You believe me just because I said so? The inner demon smiled brightly, but his eyes looked like he was looking at a fool. Bastard, let's attack together. Jiang Chun was enraged to the extreme. As he shouted, the outstanding geniuses of the God clan soared up into the sky, using their ultimate power Upanishads and God marks. That battle formation was indeed a little frightening. You are indeed more courageous than those trash from Mount Supreme. However, the difference in strength is not something that can be made up for with bloodthirst. The inner demons took a step forward, and the will of the heavenly path shrouded the entire area. They began to fight with the group of Sky Prides. Don't say it. Relying on the God clan's mark and their advantage in numbers, the group of heavenly legends was quite capable. They were evenly matched with the inner demons. This gave the group of Sky Prides a glimmer of hope to defeat the inner demons. Jiang Chun and Jiang Xing in particular were brimming with killing intent. Haha, the mark of the God clan is indeed extraordinary. However, it's still inferior to the will of the heavenly Tao. The inner demons cackled. Xiao Chun activated the instant time and landed beside Jiang Chun. Then, he sent a palm strike at Jiang Chen's head. Accompanied by a painful scream, Jiang Chen's head shattered on the spot. His soul fled in terror. In less than a few breaths, the other Sky Prides were also defeated one after another. Their bodies were all destroyed. Their souls escaped from their bodies and flew towards the Divine King in terror. Don't panic. We agreed to stop at a certain point. I won't harm your lives. The inner demons laughed wantonly. The Divine King clenched his fists, suppressing the anger in his heart, and said, "Since you are so powerful, then I will rely on you to defeat Qin Feiyang and the others in the future." Qin Feiyang. The inner demon's expression changed slightly, but it instantly returned to normal. He cackled. "Don't worry, I will not disappoint Lord Divine King's expectations." Swish. However, at this moment, 2 purple figures descended from the sky. Come and defeat us first. They were Ryuko and Jishaoi. The Divine King was taken aback. Why would these two take the initiative to come to the island and challenge this mysterious youth? The inner demons also looked surprised. Anyway, you will go to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan to challenge us tomorrow, so we might as well take the initiative to find you, Ryuko said proudly. Haha, you know us quite well. The inner demons laughed. Laugh all you want. You will cry later. Ryuko sneered. So confident? But why did I hear that you can't even defeat Qin Feiyang? No, you can't even defeat Long Chun of the Sky Cloud Realm? The inner demons looked at him mockingly. When Ryuko heard this, his face darkened. This matter was also the shame of his life. Whenever he thought of this matter, he couldn't help but go crazy. Don't be provoked by him, Ji Shaoi reminded. Don't worry. I am not that weak. Long Chun smiled ferociously. He activated his 3,000 incarnations and said coldly, so what if you have the will of the heavenly Tao? In front of the 3,000 incarnations of my purple gold divine dragon clan, you are just an ant. The inner demons frowned and said, I remember when I fought with you back then, you didn't inherit the 3,000 incarnations, right? That's why I was defeated by you back then. And now, I have 3,000 incarnations, and I am no longer someone you can provoke. Today I will wash away my shame. Ryuko smiled sinisterly. Ultimate profound meanings appeared one after another. The law of cause and effect, the law of destruction, and the law of time. Back then, when he invaded the Sky Cloud Realm, his law of time was only at the level of the ultimate profound meaning. Could be seen. He had worked very hard these years. 3 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law plus 3,000 incarnations, that was a total of 9,000 ultimate profound meanings. With 9,000 ultimate profound meanings of the strongest law, the will of the heavenly Tao really couldn't contend with it. In short, to fight against 3,000 incarnations, unless you also had 3,000 incarnations Long Chen's domain of divinity, or the power of origin of the divine kingdom, no matter how strong you were, you couldn't be a match for 3,000 incarnations. The divine king raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, Go to the galaxy. 9,000 ultimate profound meanings were equivalent to 9,000 sovereign divine weapons. Even the barrier she personally set up on the island couldn't resist such divine power. Don't run if you have the guts. Ryuko glanced at the divine king, stared at the inner demons and smiled coldly. Then he took Ji Shaoi and the 3,000 incarnations and rushed toward the galaxy without looking back. Run. The word run will never exist in my dictionary. The inner demons muttered and took a step into the sky. A monstrous murderous aura roared out, and the void around him instantly turned into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Even the divine king couldn't help but be shocked by such a murderous aura. How many massacres did he have to go through? How much blood did his hands have to be stained with to create such a terrifying murderous aura? 3,000 incarnations. It's still worth looking forward to. Lu Jiajin smiled faintly and also stepped into the galaxy. Worth looking forward to? The divine king was in disbelief when he heard this. These words were too arrogant. The power of 3,000 incarnations was obvious to all. Even she, the divine king, was afraid of them. But in this person's eyes, it was only worth looking forward to? Fine. I want to see what other abilities you have besides the will of the heavenly Tao. Behave yourselves. After warning Zhang Qian and the others, the divine king also stepped into the galaxy without looking back. Chapter 4170. Star River. Ryuko and Ji Shaoi were the first to enter the Star River. When the inner demon stepped into the Star River, Ryuko sneered, Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Now I'll give you some time to prepare. The inner demons was slightly taken aback. You're so confident that you can defeat me? What do you think? Take a good look at the 3,000 incarnations behind me. They have a total of 9,000 ultimate laws. What are you going to use to fight me? Don't tell me you also have 3,000 incarnations. The corner of Ryuko's mouth raised slightly. That arrogant attitude made the inner demons laugh. What are you laughing at? Ryuko raised his eyebrows. Now I finally understand why you've been defeated repeatedly in the Sky Cloud Realm. With your arrogant personality, it's already a miracle that you can live until now. The inner demon's face was full of ridicule. With such a playboy mentality you can fight me and that wolf cub? Isn't that just crushing? You're courting death. Ryuko's eyes turned cold. He could say anything, but what happened in the Sky Cloud Realm couldn't be mentioned in front of him, because it would be exposing his scars. As his voice fell, the 3,000 incarnations were also full of murderous intent. 9,000 ultimate laws suddenly turned into a torrent, drowning the starry sky, and crazily attacking the inner demons. Do you need me? Lu Jijin, who was standing not far away, suddenly asked. The divine king stood at the entrance of the Star River. When he heard this, he immediately looked at Lu Jijin. From his tone, could this young man defeat the 3,000 incarnations? In today's world, it seemed that only Long Chen's domain of divinity could restrain the 3,000 incarnations. Where did this confidence come from? The inner demons glanced at Lu Jijin, then glanced at the 3,000 incarnations behind Ryuko and laughed. Won't you be using a sledgehammer to crack a nut? You just watch from the side. Okay. Lu Jijin nodded. Although his expression couldn't be seen due to the mask, his eyes remained calm. He didn't put Ryuko and Jishaoi in his eyes at all. In the blink of an eye, the 9,000 ultimate laws of nature were about to reach the inner demons. That terrifying aura was indeed a little frightening. But the red eyes of the inner demons were filled with mockery. Boom! All of a sudden, a monstrous baleful aura erupted. In an instant, the inner demons seemed to have transformed into a blood-clad demon king. Waves of blood surged around him, drowning the entire area. It was also within the waves of blood that several figures suddenly appeared. Every single one of these figures wore blood-red clothes and had blood-red hair. They were like peerless demon kings that had returned, and their murderous auras soared into the sky. The most important thing was, these blood-cloaked demon kings were exactly the same as the inner demons in terms of height and temperament. However, their faces were shrouded in a bloody mist, making it impossible for others to see their true appearances. 3,000 clones? The Divine King's eyes widened. If these weren't 3,000 incarnations, then what were they? This person actually had 3,000 incarnations as well? How was this possible? 3,000 incarnations was a secret technique of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. Qin Feiyang was able to master 3,000 incarnations because of the princess of the Divine Kingdom. But this person, he was neither a relative nor a friend of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. How could he have the opportunity to obtain 3,000 incarnations? Why do you have 3,000 incarnations? Ryuko and Jishaoi's faces were also filled with disbelief. The inner demons raised the corners of his mouth and joked. Do you think these are 3,000 incarnations? If these aren't 3,000 incarnations, then what are they? You actually stole the secret of our Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. Ryuko roared. Ignorance is terrible. The inner demon shook his head. The waves of blood surged, covering the sky and the sun. There weren't 3,000 blood-clad demon kings standing in the waves of blood. There were only 1,000 of them. However, the aura emitted by these 1,000 blood-clad demon kings was enough to make the galaxy collapse crazily. Boom! The next moment, ultimate profound meanings appeared one after another, and the will of heaven roared out. Not only can these incarnations activate the ultimate profound meanings, but they also have the will of heaven like you. You still say that these aren't 3,000 incarnations? Ryuko roared. Ha, you're indeed an ignorant fool. The inner demons sneered. Those 1,000 blood-clad demon kings had only activated 2,000 ultimate profound meanings. But even so, with the support of the will of heaven, each of these 2,000 ultimate profound meanings could fight one against 6. Rumble. Accompanied by a loud explosion, Ryuko's 9,000 ultimate profound meanings were instantly annihilated in the galaxy. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood. Ryuko's eyes trembled. What was going on? A person who had nothing to do with the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan actually had 3,000 incarnations? If Qin Feiyang and Qin Badian had 3,000 incarnations, this was understandable. After all, they were the descendants of the princess of the Divine Kingdom. But the person in front of them was clearly a human of the Divine Kingdom. How could the humans of the Divine Kingdom have obtained their secrets that were not to be passed on? 3,000 incarnations doesn't seem to be a big deal. The inner demons laughed. Bastard! Not only did he steal 3,000 incarnations of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, but he also slandered them. Ryuko was burning with anger. Jishaoi, kill him with me. Okay. Jishaoi nodded. Swoosh! Behind him, 3,000 clones instantly appeared. The inner demons and Lu Jijin were stunned. This person also had 3,000 incarnations. What was going on? Didn't the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race only have the Overlord, Heavenly Lord Ji? The Dragon Prince and Boss Ji who had 3,000 incarnations? Boom! As the 3,000 incarnations were activated, the ultimate profound meaning of the law of death appeared. Ji Shaoi had only mastered this ultimate profound meaning. But even so, with 3,000 incarnations, he could still unleash terrifying combat power. Because 3,000 incarnations could increase his combat power by 3,000 times. Ji Shaoi had indeed profited from a disaster. Although he had lost his most powerful battle soul, the Eye of Destiny, the 3,000 incarnations gave him the ability to look down on all the elites of the Divine Kingdom. Boom! Ryuko activated his ultimate profound meaning again. 12,000 ultimate profundities of supreme laws, carrying with them the power to destroy the heavens and earth, charged toward the inner demon. You're still too naive. The inner demon shook his head. Boom! 1,000 blood-robed demon lords, 6 ultimate profound meanings, and the will of the heavenly way exploded. At this moment, Ryuko and Ji Shaoi couldn't help but feel desperate. Although the other party only had 1,000 incarnations, the 6 ultimate profound meanings, and the will of the heavenly way pressed down on them like a mountain. Boom! There was no suspense. This was a situation that could destroy everything in its path. The 12,000 ultimate laws of Ryuko and Ji Shaoi shattered like rotten wood. The 3,000 incarnations were also collapsing. Why? Ryuko roared hysterically. He thought that by inheriting the 3,000 incarnations, he would be able to avenge the humiliation from 1,000 years ago. However, he didn't expect the other party to also have 3,000 incarnations. Not only did he fail to take revenge, but he was also severely humiliated again. You still think that these are 3,000 incarnations? No. Let me tell you now. This is the Demon King's real body. It's a supreme killing technique that I created myself. The inner demons looked at the two of them with disdain. What? Their eyes trembled. The Demon King's real body? A supreme killing technique that he created himself? How is this possible? The Divine King also had a look of disbelief. How powerful must he be to be able to create such a terrifying killing technique? 1,000 years ago, when we came to challenge you, I had already created the Demon King's real body. However, none of you so-called elites had the ability to make me activate the Demon King's real body. But this time, I have a whole new level of respect for you. At least you can make me use this trump card. The inner demon snickered. Impossible. Don't lie to us. This is obviously 3,000 incarnations. Ji Shaoi shook his head. Sigh. It seems that if I don't let you see the true face of the Demon King's real body, you won't believe it. The inner demon shook his head and sighed. As soon as his voice faded, behind him, another 2,000 blood-robed demon kings appeared. In total, there were a total of 3,000. It was exactly the same as the number of 3,000 incarnations. Moreover, the bodies of these 3,000 blood-robed demon kings began to swell with the wind. In just an instant, they turned into giants that were tens of thousands of feet tall. There were even pairs of blood-red wings growing on their backs. There were a total of 9 pairs. 18 blood-red wings. Their faces were still shrouded in blood mist, and their true appearance could not be seen clearly. From afar, it was like an ancient demon god had descended into the world, exuding a terrifying aura. This is the true face of the Demon King's real body? The Divine King murmured. Sure enough, it was not 3,000 incarnations. It was hard to imagine how powerful this person was to be able to comprehend a terrifying killing technique similar to the 3,000 incarnations. Seemed that this was the reason why the Central Dynasty valued him. Because the Demon King's real body was completely capable of competing with the 3,000 incarnations. As long as this person could be brought into the Central Dynasty, then the Central Dynasty would have the means to suppress the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. The Divine King looked at Lu Jijin again. The inner demons had such terrifying strength. What about this person? Could it be that he also had the means of 3,000 incarnations in the Demon King's real body? The remaining 2 chapters will be released before 11 o'clock. Chapter 4171. Lu Jijin noticed the Divine King's gaze, but he didn't show any arrogance or rudeness. He nodded and smiled at the Divine King. Looking at Lu Jijin's eyes, the Divine King was slightly stunned. This pair of eyes were extremely clear, Like a bright mirror, moreover, they were extremely infectious. He could imagine that this was a young man with an extraordinary state of mind. Why wasn't such a person born in the God clan? Whether it was these two young men in front of him or Qin Feiyong and the others, any one of them could be born in the God clan and become the pride of the God clan. Unfortunately, this was all a fantasy. Looking at Ryuko and Ji Shaoi again, looking at the 3,000 Demon King real bodies behind the inner demons, they were extremely shocked. He could actually create a killing technique as powerful as the 3,000 Demon Kings? They originally thought that no matter how monstrous the other party was, he would at most be on the same level as them. Because in the Divine Kingdom, Ryuko was already a top genius. But they never expected that the other party was a person who could create such a killing technique. One had to know. Even the older generation of the Divine Kingdom, such as the monarch, couldn't create such a killing technique. Compared to this person, how could they be called geniuses? They weren't even idiots. Are you convinced? The inner demons laughed. The two looked at each other and couldn't help but lower their heads. They couldn't face him. Are you ashamed? Do you feel like clowns? The inner demons laughed. The 3,000 Demon King real bodies burst out with a terrifying aura. The ultimate meaning and the divine power of the will of heaven surged toward the two. The two trembled and immediately knelt in the void. Their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with despair. Stop! The Divine King saw that the situation was not good and hurried forward to stand in front of the two. Ryuko was the monarch's grandson. Ji Shaoi was also Ji Yunhai's grandson. He couldn't die in the God clan's territory. You want to be a busybody? The inner demons looked at the Divine King with bloody eyes. Even the Divine King could not help but feel fear in the face of the power of the inner demons. Whether it's the God race, the human race, the purple gold divine dragon race, the beast race, or the sea race, they're all members of the Divine Kingdom. There's no need to harm each other. The Divine King said solemnly, "But I am from the Central Dynasty." In the eyes of the Central Dynasty, the 5 major races are nothing but ants. The inner demons laughed sinisterly. Various ultimate intents were activated at once. A monstrous might swept through the galaxy. The Divine King's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly pulled Ryuko and the other two away. "You're courting death," the inner demon said coldly. The 3,000 demon emperors flapped their bloody wings and charged at the 3 cultivators like a group of deities. The wind howled and waves of blood filled the sky. "It's just a spar, why make such a big fuss?" At this moment, accompanied by a majestic voice, a middle-aged man stepped into the galaxy. His monstrous aura shook the starry sky. It was the king. The inner demons turned to look at the king and smirked. "You've come at the right time. I've long wanted to experience the king's elegance." As soon as he finished speaking, the 3,000 demon emperors turned in the air and charged at the king with various ultimate intents. "What a lawless king," the Divine King murmured. They didn't even take the king seriously. "I'd also like to see what a prodigy from the Central Dynasty is capable of." The king took a step forward and activated his 3,000 clones. The ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents erupted and charged at the 3,000 demon emperors. Boom! A series of loud blasts took place in the area. The terrifying shockwaves of the battle swept in all directions. In the end, the king overwhelmed the 3,000 demon emperors of the inner demons with his advantage in numbers. Because the king had mastered the ultimate intents of the 7 ultimate intents, the inner demons had only activated the ultimate intents of the 6 ultimate intents. This was the advantage in numbers. But the king was also quite surprised. The demon emperors could indeed compete with the 3,000 clones. It seemed that the Central Dynasty wanted to use this person's demon emperors to suppress the purple gold divine dragon clan. Haha, the king is indeed the king. He's far from being comparable to those trash. The inner demon's fighting spirit was also stimulated. He stepped out into the air, bringing with him a monstrous wave of blood as he engaged in an intense battle with the monarch. Rumble! Terrifying shockwaves enveloped the galaxy like raging waves. About a few hundred rounds passed. The inner demons was already dripping with blood. But at this moment, his eyes flashed with killing intent. The king immediately felt a sense of danger and a sense of fear rose in his heart. Stop! But suddenly, A hoarse voice was heard. A white-haired old man descended on the galaxy. It was Yu Lao who led the team from the Central Dynasty. Looking at the inner demons who were boiling with fighting spirit, Yu Lao said helplessly, "Can't you stop? It's none of your business. If you talk nonsense again, I'll beat you up too, old man." The inner demons snorted, but they also stopped fighting. The 3,000 demon emperors also disappeared. The corner of Yu Lao's mouth twitched. He looked at the king and the divine king and smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry this kid is like this. When he sees a strong person, he wants to learn from them." The two looked at each other and were speechless. Was this called learning from each other? It was clearly a merciless battle to the death. But because of Yu Lao's face, they couldn't say much. Yu Lao looked at the inner demons and said, "Apologize to the king and the divine king." "Apologize? With just them? Old man, you must have taken the wrong medicine. Do I look like someone who will apologize?" The inner demon sneered arrogantly, opened a space-time passage, and left without looking back. "Bastard! Do you know what it means to respect the old and love the young?" Yu Lao was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. He looked at Lu Jijin and said, "Aren't you going to do something about it? Even you can't do anything about it. How can I?" Lu Jijin smiled helplessly and looked at Yu Lao, the king and the divine king. He cupped his hands and smiled. "I won't disturb you from catching up. Goodbye." After that, he turned around and stepped into the space-time passage, leaving with the inner demons. The corner of Yu Lao's mouth kept twitching. These two youngsters were indeed outstanding. However, their personalities were too unruly and unruly. "I'm really sorry." He looked at the divine king and the king and smiled apologetically again. "It's okay. It's normal for young people to be arrogant. Besides, they do have the right to be arrogant." The king waved his hand. The 3,000 clones also dissipated. "Lord Ruler, you're right. The king is righteous." Elder Yu smiled faintly. "I'm sorry. I still have a lot to learn in front of you." The king waved his hand. He knew a little about this old man. He was a figure of the same era as Boss Ji and the other old men, so he was really a junior in front of this person. "Don't be so humble. The position of the king is not something that ordinary people can take up." Yu Lao smiled hoarsely and asked, "How is your father?" "Thank you for your concern. My father is very good." The king smiled. "All right. When I have time, I'll go to the ancestral land of the purple gold divine dragons. It'll be a revisit." Yu Lao smiled. "You're welcome at any time." The king smiled. Yu Lao smiled and looked at the king and the divine king. He said, "Also, inform the supreme of the human race to go to the Dragon God Mountain in 3 days. I have something to discuss with him." "Okay." The two nodded. After Yu Lao left, the king immediately looked at Ryuko and the divine king and said angrily, "You're asking to be humiliated. Go back immediately and reflect on your mistakes." The two felt wronged. Who knew that this person had a trump card that was not inferior to the 3,000 clones? But in the face of the king's reproach, they did not dare to say anything. They lowered their heads and left. You can't blame them. Even if they didn't come today, those two would have killed their way to the purple gold divine dragon clan tomorrow. The divine king looked at the backs of Ryuko and the divine king and smiled at the king. "I know. But I just feel like I'm disappointed." The king said angrily. "I agree." The divine king smiled bitterly. If it was Qin Feiyong, how could he let those two be so arrogant? But then again, that blood-red-clothed youth is really something. If not for Yu Lao's appearance, I'm afraid that even I would have died in his hands. The king frowned. "No way." The divine king was shocked. Before Yu Lao appeared, I felt a dangerous aura from him. That feeling was very real. So I guess that he's hiding some trump card. The king said in a deep voice. The divine king's pupils shrank. What kind of monster was this? The king took a deep breath and said, "What do you think about going to Dragon God Mountain in 3 days? Do you even need to think about it? You just want to be a peacemaker and resolve the grudge between us and the dragon god." The divine king pouted. These people from the Central Dynasty really like to meddle in other people's business. From this matter, it seems that the oceanic race and the beast race are really the ruler's trusted aides. If it were us three races, the central dynasty would definitely not be so proactive. The king snorted discontentedly. So, our decision back then was correct. This ruler is no longer worthy of our lives. The divine king's eyes flashed coldly. As the ruler of the divine kingdom, I don't want you to be fair, but you can't be too biased either. If you did that, where would the god race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon clan stand? Were they really treating the three major races as cannon fodder? Chapter 4172. Wait. Should we talk to Qin Feiyang about this? Tell him to make some arrangements. The divine king transmitted his voice. What do you mean? The monarch looked at the divine king suspiciously. The divine king's eyes flashed with killing intent. If the central dynasty's prodigy dies in the hands of the dragon god, do you think Yu Lao will still help the dragon god? The monarch was shocked to hear this. He didn't expect the divine king to have such a crazy idea. But if that was the case, not only would the central dynasty not help the dragon god, but they would also attack the dragon god. In this way, they could use the central dynasty to get rid of the dragon god. You don't say. The more I think about it, the more I think it's feasible. The divine king said. Okay. I'll go talk to Qin Feiyang. The monarch nodded. Be careful. Now that the central dynasty is here, there's no need for any accidents. The divine king reminded him. I know. The monarch smiled. If he couldn't handle this well, wouldn't he have been a monarch for so many years in vain? In the village, Qin Feiyang and the other two were in seclusion in the back mountain tea garden. Master Jizhou didn't dare to leave the tea garden. He was on tenterhooks every day, afraid that he would lose a few tea trees if he wasn't careful. Whoosh! The monarch arrived at the tea garden and looked at Master Jizhou, who was sitting alone at the tea table with an irritated expression. Master Jizhou, you seem to be in a good mood. How can you tell that I'm in a good mood? Master Jizhou raised an eyebrow. Ha! The monarch couldn't help but laugh. Master Jizhou stared at him and frowned. You came here for something? Yes. I want to discuss something with Qin Feiyang. The monarch nodded. Master Jizhou rolled his eyes and asked with a smile, Little Wang, how does Master Jizhou usually treat you? This. The monarch looked at Master Jizhou warily. Answer me. Master Jizhou glared at him. That goes without saying. He's definitely very good to me. If it weren't for your careful guidance, I wouldn't have my current achievements and status. The monarch quickly put on a flattering smile. Not bad, not bad. Do you still remember how well I treated you? Master Jizhou nodded with a smile. Just say what you want to say. Don't beat around the bush. The king smiled bitterly. Such a courteous attitude really made him uncomfortable. All right. Then this old man will say it directly. Do me a favor and get Qin Feiyang and Long Chun out of here. Jizhou said. Ugh. The monarch was startled and asked suspiciously. Did they do something wrong? No. Jizhou shook his head. Then how dare you let them go? The monarch was puzzled. Aren't you asking the obvious? With them here, can this old man still enjoy life in peace? This old man heard from Dong Zhengyang that Long Chun is also a person who loves tea as much as his life. Qin Feiyang alone is already a headache for this old man. With Long Chun here, can this old man still feel at ease? Master Jizhou rubbed his forehead. In the past 2 days, he had thought of many ways, but Qin Feiyang and Long Chun refused to leave. They wanted to stay here, so he asked the monarch for help. Looking at Master Jizhou's irritated look, the monarch's face flushed red. Still laughing, Master Jizhou glared at him fiercely. No. I just feel that it's just a little tea tree. Just be generous and give them some. When the time comes, you don't need to say anything. They will leave by themselves. The monarch laughed. In your dreams. Master Jizhou snorted and glared at the monarch. I think you are also an unreliable person. Forget it, this old man will think of a way myself. The monarch smiled helplessly, turned his head to look at the wooden building, and shouted, Qin Feiyang, come out. I have something to discuss with you. After a while, Qin Feiyang and the other two walked out of the wooden building. They were in good spirits. That was especially true of Qin Feiyang and Long Chun. To them this place was like heaven. Master Jizhou, your majesty. Qin Feiyang waved to the two from afar and greeted them. Annoying. Master Jizhou turned his head and looked away. Qin Feiyang, Long Chan, and Dong Zhengyang looked at each other and walked over with a smile. Good tea. Looking at the teapot on the tea table, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He poured a cup of tea without hesitation and tasted it comfortably. Boy, do you still know how to be polite? Master Jizhou frowned. Did he ask for his permission? Great-grandfather, we are family. Why are you being so polite? Qin Feiyang smiled and acted like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water, which made Master Jizhou quite depressed. It was better to be polite. It was actually good to be an outsider. Long Chan poured a cup of tea for himself and drank it with a face full of enjoyment. Then he looked at the monarch and asked, Your Majesty, what can I do for you? First of all, there is a news that I think it is necessary to tell you. It is about the two mysterious young men. The monarch's face immediately became serious. Mysterious young men? Dong Zhengyang was stunned and asked, Are they the two masked geniuses from the Central Dynasty? Yes. The monarch nodded. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. Why were the top 10 geniuses from the Central Dynasty talking about the inner demons and Lu Jijin? These two are not simple. Especially that young man in red. Yesterday, he went to Mount Supreme and severely injured the human race's geniuses. Then they came to the Island of Gods and crushed the god race's geniuses. They even fought with Ji Shaoi and Ryuko. The monarch said, What? Fought with Ryuko and Ji Shaoi? Qin Feiyang and the other two frowned. They naturally knew about Ryuko and Ji Shaoi's situation. They both controlled 3,000 incarnations and were not to be underestimated. As for the inner demons and Lu Jijin, although they did not know their strength, they were afraid that they would be at a disadvantage when facing 3,000 incarnations. The monarch asked, You must be thinking that they would be at a disadvantage when facing Ryuko and Ji Shaoi, right? The three nodded. But it is the opposite. Ryuko and Ji Shaoi were completely crushed by them. No, they were crushed by the young man in red. The other person did not make a move from the beginning to the end. The monarch said in a deep voice. What? Qin Feiyang and the other two's faces were full of shock. The inner demons were now so powerful? They could even suppress 3,000 incarnations? One had to know. It was not just one person but both Ryuko and Ji Shaoi. Both of them had 3,000 incarnations. How powerful would they be if they attacked together? You must be surprised. What is more surprising is that the young man in red created a killing technique called the Demon King's True Body. It is similar to the 3,000 incarnations. Moreover, he has mastered the ultimate profundities of the 6 supreme laws and integrated with the will of the heavenly path. The monarch said. Qin Feiyang and the other two could not help but gasp when they heard this. The Demon King's true body? The will of the heavenly path? This heart demon was too overbearing, wasn't it? Master Jizhou was also shocked. There was such a genius in the world? I have also fought with him. To be honest, I am not confident that I can defeat him. The monarch smiled bitterly. The three's faces stiffened. Even the monarch was not confident in facing the inner demons. Just how did this guy cultivate? Their growth was already fast enough, but they did not expect the inner demons to grow even faster. So you must be mentally prepared. After all, this is a powerful enemy you are about to face. The monarch reminded. Got it? Qin Feiyang nodded. The monarch continued. The Divine King and I are thinking about another thing. Should we arrange for the dragon god? What do you mean? The three were stunned. The monarch clearly expressed the Divine King's intention. The three looked at each other. This move was a little vicious. They did not want to give the dragon god a chance to turn the tables. What do you think? The monarch asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and turned to look at Long Chan. Long Chan shook his head and said, The plan is not bad, but it is not that easy to carry it out. First, it depends on the Central Dynasty's trust in the dragon god. If the Central Dynasty really trusts the dragon god, it will be useless no matter how we instigate. Think so too. Qin Feiyang nodded. Secondly, the dragon god. Killing the Central Dynasty's geniuses is easy, but it is a little difficult to frame the dragon god. Because for this kind of thing, we must let Yu Lao see the dragon god attack the Central Dynasty's geniuses with his own eyes, If the dragon god does not have the origin force, then it is still fine. I can completely control him. But in the current situation, none of us can defeat the dragon god, let alone control him. Long Chun shook his head. Then what if we let the dragon god's beast god attack? The monarch asked. That is even more meaningless. Although I can control the beast god, if the beast god attacks and kills the central dynasty's geniuses, then the one who is unlucky is the beast god, not the dragon god. Because even if we want to frame the dragon god, he can completely deny it. Long Chun said. Makes sense. The monarch nodded and shook his head. Seems that this plan will not work. Not necessarily. Long Chun chuckled. The monarch looked at Long Chun again. Long Chun turned to Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, Brother Qin, if this plan is to succeed, we will have to rely on you. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. It seems that you have understood what I mean. Long Chun smiled. Understood. But it feels too troublesome to do this. And now that the central dynasty's people have arrived, there are bound to be many variables. Qin Feiyong said worriedly. Chapter 4173. It's indeed troublesome. Besides, if we really succeed, the dragon god will become very valuable to us. It's a bit of a waste to sacrifice him like this. Long Chun thought to himself as he drank his tea. That's right. Instead of letting him be sacrificed, it's better to use him for us. With his strength and the entire beast race, we will definitely be able to destroy the central dynasty. Qin Feiyong nodded. That makes sense. The central dynasty must be destroyed before the ruler of the divine kingdom returns. Otherwise, they will definitely become our hindrance in the future. Long Chun smiled slightly. The two of them had a tacit understanding and basically thought of the same thing. However, the monarch and Master Jizhou were confused. What the hell was he talking about? They didn't understand at all. Dong Zhengyang thought for a while and couldn't help but smile, but he didn't interrupt and just drank his tea. It wasn't that the monarch and Master Jizhou weren't as smart as Dong Zhengyang. The monarch and Master Jizhou couldn't figure it out because they didn't know Qin Feiyong as well as Dong Zhengyang. Hey, can you two stop talking in riddles? Master Jizhou couldn't stand it anymore and said with a dark face. Qin Feiyong and Master Jizhou were stunned. They looked up at the confused monarch and the angry Master Jizhou and couldn't help but smile at each other. What are you laughing at? Master Jizhou glared at them. Okay. Qin Feiyong quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, Great-grandfather, we're actually talking about Neptune's origin energy. Origin energy? The monarch and Master Jizhou looked at each other and immediately became interested. The reason why Neptune and the dragon god were feared by everyone was because of the origin energy in their hands. If they could destroy these two origin energies, even the purple gold divine dragon race alone would be enough to overturn the sea race and the beast race, let alone the three races. Didn't we kidnap millions of members of the oceanic tribe some time ago? The various sea gods and 2/3 of the core members of the sea gods island? Qin Feiyong smiled. Yes. Jizhou nodded. Qin Feiyong said, My goal is to use these sea tribe members to exchange for the source energy in Neptune's hands. So that's what happened. The monarch nodded. Suddenly, he frowned and asked, You didn't kill those sea tribe members? Not a single one. But now that they're alive, it's more painful than death. Qin Feiyong smiled. Are you torturing them? Is that necessary? Childish. Master Jizhou said in disdain. You're wrong. We didn't torture them at all. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. If you didn't torture them, then why are they suffering more pain than death? This made Jizhou a little confused. Qin Feiyong and the other two looked at each other and smiled. Then they looked at Jizhou and said anyway they want to die now. As for the reason, let's keep them in suspense. Jizhou immediately rolled his eyes. Qin Feiyong smiled and continued. If we can really get the source energy in Neptune's hands, then why should we be afraid of a mere dragon god? That's true. The dragon god's greatest reliance is the power of origin, said Yi Futian. The monarch nodded. So as long as Neptune's source energy falls into our hands, then we can defeat the dragon god and control him. In this way, not to mention killing the central dynasty's prodigies in front of Yu Lao, even if we ask him to attack Yu Lao, he won't frown. But then again, if the dragon god is really controlled by us, then with his strength, he can become our right-hand man. Why should we send him to his death? Qin Feiyong smiled. The monarch and Jijiu looked at each other. Now that he thought about it, it did make some sense. If they could really control the dragon god, then the dragon god would become one of them. If they still sent him to his death, wouldn't it be a waste of a talent? After pondering for a while, the monarch looked at Qin Feiyong and Jijiu and frowned. Listening to what you said, there's no need for us to scheme against the dragon god now? Of course not. No one knows the future situation. But now what we need to do is to find a way to get the source energy in Neptune's hands. In short, whether it's to control the dragon god for our use or to set up a trap to kill the dragon god, the first prerequisite is to get this source energy. Otherwise we can't do anything. Longchen explained. The source energy. The monarch pondered for a while, looked up at the two and smiled. We can't help with this matter. You have to plan it yourselves. Qin Feiyong looked at the smile on the monarch's face and said helplessly, "Are you planning to be a hands-off boss? What are you talking about? Do you think I want to be a hands-off boss? Do you think I don't want to contribute? But there's no other way. The situation forces us." The monarch looked at Qin Feiyong angrily, but the smile on his face was undisguised. Qin Feiyong and the other two looked at each other and couldn't help but despise him. If he didn't want to, then he didn't want to. Why did he have to find a lot of excuses? Sigh. Is it really good to be so hypocritical? Ahem. Jijiu coughed dryly, looked at Qin Feiyong and Long Chan and said, "Since you have something important to do, then hurry up and do it. Don't waste time here." "Do we have something important to do?" Qin Feiyong looked at Long Chan and asked. "No." Long Chan shook his head. No. Didn't you say it yourself just now? You want to go to Neptune and ask for the source energy? Jijiu frowned. That's what you're talking about. Qin Feiyong smiled and shook his head. There's no hurry. We'll deal with it slowly after we come out of seclusion. Don't. We have to strike while the iron is hot. If you don't make a move now, Neptune will wait too long. When the time comes, he might not care about the Sea Clan in your hands. Jijiu hurriedly said. That makes sense. Qin Feiyong nodded. That's right. When a man does something, he has to be decisive. Jijiu chuckled. Finally, he was about to send these two boys away. But suddenly, Qin Feiyong shook his head again and said, after thinking about it, there's no need to be so anxious. Think so too. Even if Neptune doesn't care about the millions of Sea Clan members, how can he not care about the hundreds of thousands of core members of the Sea Gods Island and the 20 Sea Gods? We'll plan this slowly after we come out of seclusion. Longchen nodded with a smile. Jijiu's face suddenly darkened again. They really wanted to rely on him? Jijiu, isn't their purpose obvious? Let me tell you, if you don't want to pluck their feathers, they will definitely use all kinds of excuses to stay with you. The monarch transmitted his voice. Do you think I'm stupid? How can I not see what they're thinking? But they want me to pluck their feathers? No way. Jijiu snorted. Fine. Just pretend I didn't say anything. You can think of a way yourself. I still have a lot of things to deal with, so I won't waste time with you guys. Goodbye. After saying that, the monarch got up and looked at Qin Feiyong and the other two, saying, Then you guys take your time to plan. I'll go back first. Take care. Come and play often in the future. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Jijiu raised his eyebrows. Judging from his attitude and tone, did this kid already regard him as the owner of this place? Great-grandfather, shall we go into seclusion? After the monarch left, Qin Feiyong also put down his teacup, got up and looked at Jijiu with a smile. Jijiu didn't say anything with a dark face. Let's go. Qin Feiyong smiled at Long Chan, then turned and walked toward the wooden building. 1. Suddenly, Jijiu's voice sounded. Huh. Qin Feiyong and Long Chan were taken aback. They turned to look at Jijiu suspiciously and asked, Are you talking to us? If I'm not talking to you, am I talking to a ghost? Jijiu roared, took a few deep breaths, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said with a cold face, There is only one tea tree of each kind, and this is the last time. Qin Feiyong and Long Chan looked at each other. Is this true? Did they hear it wrong? Jijiu said angrily, Do you want me to dig it out personally and send it to you? Qin Feiyang came to his senses and quickly waved his hand, saying, No, we'll do it ourselves. How dare we trouble you to do it yourself? After saying that, he grabbed Long Chan and urged, Don't just stand there, hurry up. Okay. Long Chan nodded repeatedly. Why did it feel like a dream? So, the two of them excitedly swept through the tea garden. Can you be gentler? Don't hurt the roots. Hey, be careful. Don't hurt the tea trees next to you. Yes, be gentle. Jizhou looked at them with heartache. Dong Zhongyang stood aside obediently with a hint of a smile in his eyes. How could this escape Jizhou's eyes? His face darkened, and he said angrily, Is it your bad idea? Huh? Dong Zhongyang looked at Jizhou with a puzzled face. Don't play dumb with me. Among the three of you, only you know me better. Pestering her relentlessly. I can't believe you can think of such a shameless method. Jizhou snorted coldly. No. I owe you a debt of gratitude for recognizing my worth and nurturing me. How could I possibly instigate them to do that? Dong Zhongyang hurriedly shook his head. Continue to pretend. It's a waste of your talents if you don't act. Jizhou's face was full of disdain. Dong Zhongyang laughed dryly. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Nothing could escape this old man's eyes. Finally, Qin Feiyang and Long Chan finished sweeping. There was one of each variety, so there were 20 of them. Are you satisfied now? Jizhou glared at the two of them, looking at the pits in the tea garden. His heart was bleeding. Thank you, great-grandfather. Great-grandfather is the most generous. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth and whispered, Brother Long, quickly put them away. Otherwise, when the old master regrets it, our efforts will be in vain. Long Chun was stunned. He looked at Jizhou and asked, You're giving them all to me? Otherwise. This time, I asked for them especially for you. Of course, if you want to be polite, then we'll split them in half. Qin Feiyang smiled flatteringly at the old master while muttering to Long Chan in a low voice, Who's being polite with you? Long Chan rolled his eyes and waved his hand, and all 20 tea trees disappeared in an instant. Chapter 4174. Are you satisfied now? You can get lost now. Jizhou's face was dark, and he was in a bad mood. This? Qin Feiyang stammered. But before he could finish, Master Jizhou pointed at the foot of the mountain and roared, Disappear immediately. Okay. We'll visit you again when we're free. Qin Feiyang quickly nodded and dragged Long Chan away. Visit me again? The corner of Jizhou's mouth twitched. He'd better not come again. Otherwise, this tea garden would be destroyed sooner or later. He took away 60 of his tea trees in 2 visits. It was simply asking for his life. Take it easy, Jiu. If you don't get rid of the old, the new won't come. Dong Zhongyang comforted him. Then go and find some new tea trees for me. Jizhou glared at him fiercely. It was easy for him to say that. It's really not your tea trees. Don't you feel bad? Dong Zhongyang smiled embarrassedly. Which tea lover didn't treat the divine tea tree as a treasure? Where could he find it? But then again, Jizhou lowered his head and pondered for a while. He frowned and said, Why is Qin Feiyang so good to Long Chan? For Long Chen's sake, you shamelessly came to pester me? Is their relationship even better than his relationship with the madman? That's not it. Qin Feiyang's relationship with the madman and the white-eyed wolf is the best. Because they have gone through life and death together. As for Long Chan, Dong Zhong was silent for a moment and sighed. Actually, the relationship between Long Chan and them wasn't good in the past. What do you mean? Jizhou was suspicious. Long Chan is a member of the dragons of the ancient world. Once, the dragons of the ancient world, Long Chen's mother, had always wanted to snatch Qin Feiyang and Qin Beishan's purple gold dragon blood. It was also because of this that the two sides began to fight to the death. In the end, the dragons were exterminated by Qin Feiyang and the lunatic, leaving only Long Zun and Long Chan. Dong Zhongyang sighed. Extermination? Jizhou's face was full of shock as he asked, Why are they still so friendly when they have the enmity of exterminating their clan? Although Long Zun's personality is not good, Long Chen's personality is very good. He's an open and above-board person. When they fought in the ancient world, Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist admired Long Quan very much. Afterwards, they entered the sky cloud realm one after another. In the beginning, the conflict also became more and more intense. Long Quan's father is an almighty. He ordered the dragons of the sky cloud realm to attack Qin Feiyang. He also ordered 2 sovereign divine weapons to assassinate Qin Feiyang repeatedly. You should be able to imagine how dangerous it is for a person who hasn't stepped into the sovereign realm to face the assassination of 2 sovereign divine weapons at any time. However, Qin Feiyang relied on his companions and the support of countless creatures in the Black Tortoise realm to survive the calamities and become the #1 person in the Sky Cloud realm. Dong Zhengyang smiled. Then it's really not easy for him. Jizhou shook his head. It was not difficult to imagine how desperate it was for a person who didn't even have the cultivation of a sovereign realm to face 2 sovereign divine weapons. Later, Long Quan's father didn't interfere anymore. Because of this, Qin Feiyang was able to get some time to breathe. But during this period, Long Quan didn't make a move. Even when he was being chased by the Feng people, Long Quan even saved him. Because in Long Quan's eyes, the root cause of the destruction of the dragons in the ancient realm wasn't Qin Feiyang, but his mother. Because his mother, Long Zun, was very unfriendly to the creatures in the ancient realm. There was also Qin Batian. He was the first person to fight against the dragons. And in the ancient realm, he even established the Dragon Slayer Palace in order to destroy the dragons and return peace to the ancient realm. Therefore, Long Quan's hatred for Qin Feiyang wasn't that strong. However, they really reconciled with each other thanks to the Divine Kingdom. Dong Zhengyang smiled. Thanks to us? Jizhou was stunned. Yes, the invasion of the Divine Kingdom made them temporarily put aside their grudges. Because at that time, only they could contend with the people of the Divine Kingdom in the Sky Cloud realm. Dong Zhengyang smiled. So that's how it is. Jizhou nodded and said with a smile, this means that they are very responsible people. That's true. Whether it's Qin Feiyang or Long Quan, they both have benevolent hearts. At the beginning, joining forces to fight against the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom was just the beginning. The people who really made them put aside their grudges were actually the monarch, the Divine King, and the sovereign of the human race, Lord Ji. Dong Zhengyang said with a smile. What do you mean? Jizhou was curious. At that time, Qin Feiyang comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, so he had to face the terrifying heavenly tribulation. At the same time, the monarch and the others came in person, which undoubtedly made things worse. Long Quan knew that if Qin Feiyang really died in the hands of the monarch and the others, the Sky Cloud realm would definitely fall. So not only did he sacrifice himself to protect Qin Feiyang, but he also let his sister, Long Qin, join the battle. The battle with the monarch and the others was quite tragic. But because of this, they really put aside their grudges and became close friends who would go through life and death together. Dong Zhengyang smiled slightly. So they have to thank the monarch and the others? Jizhou was stunned. More or less. As for Qin Feiyang coming here shamelessly to help Long Quan ask for the tea tree, that's because Long Quan helped him a lot, Dong Zhengyang said with a smile. What help? Jizhou was surprised. For Qin Feiyang to put down his face like this, it was definitely not a small matter. This, if they don't say, this junior can't reveal it. Dong Zhengyang smiled embarrassedly. Do you believe that I won't teach you a lesson? Jizhou's face darkened. Even if you teach me a lesson, I can't say anything. Because this matter is too important. It can be said that it concerns the fate of all the companions around us. And, if Long Quan's ability is known by the Sea Clan, the Beast Clan, and the Central Dynasty, then these 3 forces will definitely hunt Long Quan down at all costs. Now, everyone hasn't completely grown up yet, so we can't afford such a risk. Dong Zhengyang said. Jizhou's heart trembled. What kind of ability could have such a great influence? You can say that. Whether we can fight the Sea Clan, the Beast Clan, and the Central Dynasty depends on Long Quan, Dong Zhengyang said with a smile. Jizhou took a breath, and the curiosity in his heart grew stronger. Suddenly, he was stunned and asked suspiciously, You just said that Long Quan's father is a mighty figure? Yes. Dong Zhengyang nodded. What kind of existence? Jizhou was a little incredulous. Dong Zhengyang's strength was not bad, and he had the eye of destiny. How powerful must he be to become a mighty figure in his eyes? This, Dong Zhengyang smiled and said, it's not convenient to say. Jizhou was extremely angry. It was not convenient to say anything. Was it that exaggerated? It's really inconvenient. Anyway, if we anger this mighty figure, none of us will have a good ending, including Qin Feiyang now. This was not Dong Zhengyang's alarmist words. Although Qin Feiyang's current strength was very strong, he might not be able to fight against Ice Dragon. No way. Jizhou's scalp tingled when he heard this. In terms of personal strength, Qin Feiyang was now above this group of old antiques, but he couldn't beat Long Chen's father? What kind of existence was this? So, I want to say that you didn't lose out by giving Long Chen these 20 tea trees today. Because in the future, you might have unexpected gains in exchange. Dong Zhengyang smiled slightly. Alright. I originally thought that I was knowledgeable, but after hearing what you said today, I feel like a frog at the bottom of a well. Jizhou smiled bitterly. You don't have to be like this. In terms of knowledge, juniors like us can't compare to you. Dong Zhengyang smiled and comforted him. At the same time, in the sky above a mountain, Qin Feiyang and Long Chen ran out of the space-time passage with smiles on their faces. How is it? Are you satisfied now? Qin Feiyang turned to look at Long Chen and smiled. It's okay. Long Chen nodded. This is called okay. Do you know that for you, I don't even care about my face? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Haha. Long Chen laughed heartily and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, saying, Okay, I thank you. That's more like it. Qin Feiyang smiled with satisfaction, pondered for a moment and said, Then hurry up and go into seclusion. To be honest, without the help of you and senior brother, I'm still under a lot of pressure. Then are you going to negotiate with Neptune directly now? Long Chen frowned. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said with a smile, I've already mastered 2 wills of the heavenly Tao, so I'm not in a hurry to comprehend other laws. I'll go and meet Neptune alone first. Then be careful. If you really can't, just wait for us to come out. At that time, with the help of the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang, it will be easier to deal with Neptune and the others. Long Chen smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang nodded. To be honest, he was really looking forward to the demon ancestor and the others coming out of seclusion, because whether it was the demon ancestor or Mu Tianyang, they all had extremely terrifying methods and brains. When they all came out of seclusion and joined hands, there was probably nothing they couldn't do. Alright, send me to the Black Tortoise realm. I still have to deal with those tea trees first. Long Chen said with a smile. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips, and was about to send Long Chen to the Black Tortoise realm, when he suddenly thought of something and frowned, say the inner demons and big cousin, running to challenge the people of the 3 great races, do they have anything to do with us? Then how would I know? Long Chen smiled helplessly. It wasn't like he was a roundworm in the stomach of the inner demons and Lu Jijin. Besides, he didn't understand the inner demons and Lu Jijin at all. He hadn't even seen them with his own eyes. Because when the inner demons and Lu Jijin disappeared, Qin Feiyang and the others had yet to enter the ancient realm. I personally think so. This time, the inner demons and big cousin went to the 3 great races. It should be because of us. Because the grudge between us and the 3 great races is no longer a secret. The inner demons and big cousin can casually ask around, so they went to the 3 great races to kill them. And among the 3 great races, the biggest threat is undoubtedly the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. So when they fought with Ryuko and Ji Shaoi, they wanted to kill them. Qin Feiyang analyzed. Chapter 4175. Maybe. Long Chen nodded. As close relatives, knowing that Qin Feiyang was bullied by the 3 major races, it was not impossible that the inner demons and Lu Jijin would help to vent their anger. This is what I am worried about. Now the inner demons and big cousin still don't know that we have formed an alliance with the 3 major races. What if they find a chance to kill the 3 major races again? Because Qin Feiyang knew the inner demons' character too well. They had always done whatever they wanted. Don't worry about this. They are now members of the Divine Kingdom. Even if they want to kill the 3 major races, the Central Dynasty will not allow it. Otherwise, when the inner demons were on the island of the gods and prepared to kill the monarch, Yu Lao would not have stopped them. Long Chan comforted him. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. After pondering for a while, he said, but for the sake of safety, we should still find a chance to meet them and tell them about our alliance with the three major races, lest they hurt our own people. Don't. Long Chan hurriedly stopped him. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. When we were in the restaurant, they did not even respond to our voice transmission. This means that they might be worried about something. So I suggest that we should not take the initiative to look for them. We should wait for them to come to us. Long Chen said. What exactly are they worried about? Qin Feiyang could not help but frown. Maybe their current situation is not as good as what we see. Long Chan whispered. You mean that someone is watching them? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Who knows? But for people like them with unknown origins and terrifying strength, if I were the Central Dynasty's people, I would also be worried. Long Chan shook his head. Qin Feiyang touched his chin thoughtfully. Suddenly, he smiled and said, no matter how suspicious the people of the Central Dynasty are, they won't suspect that Inner Demon and Big Cousin are acquainted with us. How so? Long Chan asked with a smile. Because they appeared in the Divine Kingdom 1,000 years ago. At that time, the Divine Kingdom hadn't invaded the Sky Cloud realm yet. Therefore, the people of the Central Dynasty naturally believed that the Inner Demons and Big Cousin were from the Divine Kingdom. Qin Feiyang smiled. That's right. As long as their identities are handled properly, they will never be exposed. As for the ability to conceal their identities, I believe they still have it. Without this ability, the Inner Demons and Lu Jijin would have been exposed long ago in the Divine Kingdom. But to be honest, I'm really itching for a fight with the Inner Demons. Let's see if he's stronger, or if I'm stronger. Qin Feiyang laughed. You are the same person. Is it necessary? Long Chun was speechless. Wrong. After he passed the tribulation, he became an independent consciousness. So I am me and he is him. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Whatever. Long Chun shrugged. He then looked at the horizon, a trace of sadness in his eyes. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. The appearance of the Inner Demons reminded me of him. Long Chun sighed. Him. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Which him? Suddenly, he showed a look of realization. This him was actually another Long Chun. The former Long Chun was the same as Qin Feiyang. However, Long Chun was not the Inner Demons but the Divine Soul. Back then Long Chun had two Divine Souls. One was the Ice Dragon Soul and the other was the Sky Dragon Soul. The Sky Dragon Soul had a gentle personality and was open-minded. The Ice Dragon Soul was similar to the Inner Demons. It was cruel and unscrupulous. These two souls each had their own independent consciousness. But later, the battle between the dragons and the dragon-slaying palace broke out. Long Chun fought with Qin Feiyang and Lunatic. At that time it was not a match for Qin Feiyang and Lunatic. The Ice Dragon Soul gave up on itself and merged with the Sky Dragon Soul. So, the two Divine Souls merged into one, which was the current Long Chun. After the fusion, the Ice Dragon Soul completely disappeared. It was because of this that Long Chun could understand Qin Feiyang's sadness when he learned about the death of the Inner Demons. Because the way he got along with the Ice Dragon Soul was the same as Qin Feiyang and the Inner Demons. They were as close as brothers. But now, Qin Feiyang's Inner Demons appeared and became the pride of the Central Dynasty. Everyone was watching, but his Ice Dragon Soul had disappeared forever. Some things could be forgotten, but some things had been imprinted in the depths of the soul and could never be forgotten. Qin Feiyang was silent for a long time, then sighed. I'm very sorry about this matter. However, although you have lost the Ice Dragon Soul, you still have us. We are all your brothers. Long Chun looked at Qin Feiyang, shook his head and smiled. I didn't expect you to be such a mushy person. Aren't I comforting you? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Thank you. Long Chun smiled, collected his thoughts and said, Go do your thing. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, Long Chun disappeared without a trace. Sigh. How good would it be if the incident in the ancient realm didn't happen? Qin Feiyang looked at the sky alone for a long time. In the end, all the helplessness and regret in his heart turned into a sigh. Sea Clan. I say, you two, what's going on? As soon as you arrived at the 4 great continents, you ran to the 3 major races to mess around. In a hall, Yu Lao stared at the inner demons and Lu Jijin below, Neptune accompanied by the side. However, the inner demons half reclined on the chair, crossing his legs, holding a wine jar in his hand, exuding an intoxicating fragrance. He didn't listen to Yu Lao's lecture at all. As for Lu Jijin, he also crossed his arms, leaned against the chair, and closed his eyes to rest. I'm talking to you? Yu Lao slapped the armrest of the chair and said angrily, I'm listening. If you want to scold, then hurry up. The inner demons waved impatiently. Yu Lao's face was full of anger. Neptune looked at the side with fear and trepidation. These 2 young people were really arrogant. They didn't take Yu Lao seriously at all. Swish. This time, Lu Jijin opened his eyes and 2 rays of light burst out. Although they couldn't see his expression at this moment, whether it was Neptune or Yu Lao, they could feel a dangerous aura. His eyes were like 2 sharp swords, containing an amazing sharpness. Hey! Someone is starting to get irritated. Old man, are you sure you want to continue? The inner demons looked at Yu Lao playfully. Yu Lao clenched his hands and stared at the inner demons and Lu Jijin. There was a trace of gloominess in his eyes, and even an invisible pressure. However, whether it was Lu Jijin or the inner demons, they didn't seem to feel it. Lu Jijin's eyes didn't evade. The atmosphere in the hall gradually became serious. Neptune's forehead couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This atmosphere was simply suffocating. Don't take yourself too seriously. After a long time, Lu Jijin opened his mouth and said lightly. Then he turned and walked out of the hall without looking back. Did you hear that? Don't take yourself too seriously. The inner demons got up and smiled at Yu Lao. They also took the wine jar and walked away arrogantly. After the 2 left, the atmosphere in the hall eased. Neptune couldn't help but wipe his cold sweat. Yu Lao's face was gloomy. He suddenly slapped the armrest and roared in exasperation. Bastard! You have no respect for your elders. Neptune was shocked. He glanced at Yu Lao. It was the first time he saw someone who dared to be so arrogant in front of this old man. And it was 2 juniors. A moment later, Yu Lao took a deep breath and looked at Neptune. Sorry for making a fool of myself. No. Neptune hurriedly waved his hands. I really don't know whether it was right or wrong to bring them out. Yu Lao shook his head and sighed. Neptune pondered for a while and said, their strength is stronger than other geniuses. I'm afraid we really need them to deal with Qin Feiyang. But their personalities, don't mention their personalities. I get angry at the mention of it. Yu Lao snorted coldly. There's nothing we can do about it. Who asked them to be so monstrous? They have the right to be arrogant. You're a person of virtue and prestige. Be more open-minded and don't bicker with 2 juniors. Neptune comforted. If I really wanted to bicker with them, I'm afraid I would have died of anger. Yu Lao sighed helplessly. After sorting out his emotions, he asked, Qin Feiyang hasn't responded to you yet? No. Neptune shook his head, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Just a few youngsters, and they've actually stirred up chaos in the 4 continents of the Divine Kingdom. These young people nowadays are really terrifying. Elder Yu had a bitter smile on his face. Why are you still praising them? Neptune frowned. I should praise them when I deserve it. After all, they're really capable. However, they should be killed, and they should be killed. A glint of killing intent flashed in Yu Lao's eyes. Lord Neptune at this time, accompanied by a hurried shout, a middle-aged man with golden wings on his back hurriedly ran into the hall. Our esteemed guest is here, yet you are so flustered. Where are your manners? Neptune shouted with dissatisfaction. The middle-aged man's expression changed. He quickly looked at Yu Lao and bowed. Please forgive me, Yu Lao. It's okay. Yu Lao waved his hand. Neptune asked, what's the matter? A clansman sent a message to report that Qin Feiyang has responded to your invitation. The middle-aged man said. Neptune and Yu Lao looked at each other. Their eyes flashed, and they asked the middle-aged man, what did he say? He agreed to meet you. But the meeting place is not on the Sea Lion Island, but at the Blackwater Lake in the South Continent, the middle-aged man said. Blackwater Lake? Yu Lao was stunned. The Blackwater Lake is a dead lake. It's quite dangerous for ordinary people, because the mountains around the Blackwater Lake are full of powerful fierce beasts. It's quite famous in the South Continent. The middle-aged man explained. He didn't come to the Sea God Island. It seems that he's a very vigilant person. Yu Lao whispered. That's for sure. Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant until now? Neptune snorted and looked at the middle-aged man. Did he say anything else? Yes. You're the only one allowed to go. If he finds out that there's a second person present, he'll kill 1,000,000 of our clansmen first, the middle-aged man said. Bastard! I'd like to see if he has the guts to kill the clansmen of the Sea Clan. The Sea King flew into a rage. This threat was not hidden at all. Chapter 4176. Don't be angry. He might be trying to anger you and make you lose your rationality so that he can toy with you. Yu Lao comforted him softly. Neptune shuddered and hurriedly said gratefully, You're right. I can't be angered by him. I have to remain calm at all times. Blackwater Lake. Yu Lao pondered for a while and laughed coldly. Since he asked you to go to the Blackwater Lake, then go. I guarantee that he won't return. Won't return? Neptune was stunned. One had to know. The other party was Qin Feiyang. No one could compare to him in terms of intelligence or tactics. How could Yu Lao be so confident? I know about the Eye of Destiny situation too. It's said that you can only see the other party if you've seen them or know their name. In other words, they can only see your whereabouts now. Yu Lao's eyes sparkled. That's right. You've been on the Sea God's Island ever since you left the Central Dynasty. Even when you went to the God's Island, you went straight to the galaxy. Besides the Divine King, the King, Ryuko, and young Master Ji, no one else from the deity race has seen your true appearance. They don't know your name and appearance. Mu Qing's all-seeing eye naturally can't see your whereabouts either. Neptune's expression changed. Following which, streaks of cold light flashed in his eyes. Qin Feiyang, it's time for you to die. Yu Lao, do you want to bring those prodigies with you? The middle-aged man suddenly asked. Why? Yu Lao looked at him in confusion. The 10 prodigies that you brought with you have appeared in various places in the 4 great continents. I'm afraid that Qin Feiyang and the rest already know what they look like. I'm thinking that it's not appropriate for you to bring the 10 prodigies with you. The middle-aged man was worried. What you said makes sense. It's also this old man's fault. I didn't think things through and allowed them to run out and cause trouble. Yu Lao's face showed a trace of annoyance. If he had known this would happen, he would have let the 10 of them stay on the Sea God's Island for the time being. You don't have to blame yourself. After all, you didn't expect him to invite us to the Blackwater Lake. Neptune smiled. Yu Lao waved his hand and said, Don't help this old man find excuses. A mistake is a mistake. However, you can choose not to bring the other geniuses, but you must bring those 2 arrogant little bastards with you. Neptune was a little worried. Don't worry. Both of them are wearing masks. Even if Qin Feiyang and the others know of their existence, they don't know what they look like, let alone their names. Because even this old man doesn't know what they look like, let alone Qin Feiyang. Yu Lao sneered. What? You actually don't know what they look like? Neptune was shocked. Yes. I'm afraid that the only person in the Central Dynasty who has seen their true appearance is the Emperor. Yu Lao nodded. His expression was full of helplessness. Neptune and the middle-aged man looked at each other. So mysterious? The middle-aged man asked cautiously. Then you should know their names, right? I know that. They are brothers. The older brother is called Lu Yunfeng, and the younger brother is called Lu Yuntian. Lu Yunfeng doesn't talk much, and his personality is much better than Lu Yuntian's. However, I'd advise you not to provoke him. Otherwise, he'll be even more terrifying than Lu Yuntian. As for Lu Yuntian, as you can see, he's violent and lawless. Let alone this old man. He's offended most of the big shots in the Central Dynasty. In short, there are no rules in his eyes. Yu Lao shook his head helplessly. Neptune's mouth twitched. He was indeed a ruthless character. At the same time, it also reflected how astonishing the talents of these 2 brothers were. If you dared to provoke the big shots in the Central Dynasty without any ability, you would definitely not live to see the sun tomorrow. The middle-aged man asked curiously, then who is stronger among the 10 prodigies you brought? Definitely Lu Yunfeng and Lu Yuntian. Although the others are strong, they're still far from being comparable to them. Yu Lao shook his head and sighed. If this pair of brothers had a better temper and treated him with more respect, it would be perfect. Unfortunately, there was no one in this world who was perfect. Either they were talented or they had a bad temper. Either they had a good temper or they had bad talent. All right. Let's go to Blackwater Lake now. This time we'll catch them all in one fell swoop. Neptune nodded, killing intent flashing in his eyes. With Yu Lao's help, his confidence skyrocketed. Blackwater Lake in the southern continent. Qin Feiyang did not treat the agreement with Neptune as a secret, so now all the creatures in the 4 continents were basically talking about it. Many creatures even came to Blackwater Lake before Qin Feiyang and Neptune to join in the fun. Blackwater Lake was tens of thousands of miles long. The lake water was as black as ink with a strange aura. According to legend, there was once a giant beast here, and black sweat stains would flow out of its body. It was the sweat of this giant beast that gradually dyed the lake water here black. Of course, this was just a rumor. It was not very reliable, because no one had seen the so-called giant beast with their own eyes. At this moment, a large number of creatures gathered around the lake. There were humans, gods, purple gold divine dragons. There were also beasts and people of the Sea Clan without exception. They all came here in advance to join in the fun. Do you think Neptune dares to come? It's a little difficult. What do you mean? Look, Qin Feiyang has mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, and also has 2 wills of the heavenly Tao. With such strength, even the king, the divine king, and the supreme of the human clan are not his opponents. Think about it, even the 3 giants who have mastered 3,000 incarnations, the mark of the God clan, and the sword of faith are not Qin Feiyang's opponents, let alone Neptune. Although Neptune's status is similar to theirs, I estimate that his strength is not as good as the king and the other 2. So I speculate that Neptune does not dare to come. Listening to what you said, it does make sense. Discussions rose and fell one after another. People of the other races were listening with great interest. But when the people of the Sea Clan heard these discussions, their faces were full of anger. Because as a member of the Sea Clan, they felt ashamed when they heard people talk about Neptune like this. What nonsense are you talking about? How can the king and the other 2 be compared to Lord Neptune's strength? Let me tell you, the Lord Neptune you know now is just the tip of the iceberg. The people of the Sea Clan roared angrily. Sea Clan, what do you mean? Neptune is your lord. It's understandable that you flatter him. But shouldn't you recognize the truth when you flatter him? The king has 3,000 incarnations, the divine king has the mark of the God clan, and the supreme of the human clan has the sword of faith. What does Neptune have? You still dare to boast shamelessly about Neptune's strength. How can the king and the other 2 be compared to him? What? In the eyes of the Sea Clan, the king and the other 2 are not even qualified to be compared to Neptune. If he is so powerful, why don't the Sea Clan go to heaven? The words of the people of the Sea Clan immediately aroused the dissatisfaction of the other 3 races, and they all attacked together. If the Sea Clan wants to go to heaven, what can you do? Moreover, the Beast Clan is supporting the Sea Clan. The group of beasts also couldn't help but speak against the 3 races. Yo. The Beast Clan still has the face to speak, colluding with Qin Feiyang, killing Ji Tianfeng, and betraying Neptune, causing the Sea Clan to lose millions of people and the 20 sea gods to be wiped out. The most ridiculous thing is that you used to make false accusations, saying that the king and the other 2 are colluding with Qin Feiyang. Is this the style of the Beast Clan? You still support the Sea Clan? Why don't you ask the Sea Clan first, do they need your support? The 3 races retorted sarcastically. Don't talk nonsense. This is Qin Feiyang's trick. The Beast Clan was furious. Whether it's a trick or not, you know clearly in your hearts. Brother, why are you arguing with these beasts? Haven't you heard the saying, the thief calls the police? All kinds of mocking laughter sounded particularly ear-piercing. The ferocious beasts of the beast race couldn't hold back their anger. They roared, you call him a beast? Aya! Did we say anything wrong? Look at you, not only do you look like beasts, but your personalities are worse than beasts. Not convinced? If you're not convinced, come and beat us. Let's see if you have the ability to do so. The three races sneered. Bastard! I'll kill you all. One of the beasts couldn't help but roar and pounce on the people of the three races. Do you think you're still in the East Continent? This is the South Continent. You're in the territory of the God Clan. A burly man of the God Clan shouted angrily and activated the mark of the God Clan. A supreme arcane appeared, exuding a powerful aura, and blasted toward the beast. Their strength was about the same. However, with the blessing of the God Clan's mark, the burly man of the God Clan naturally had the power to destroy it. The beast was sent flying on the spot, its body almost torn apart. How dare you bully the Beast Clan? Brothers, kill them! Following a roar, the fierce beasts present immediately charged towards the divine race with a ferocious aura. Do you think I'm afraid of you beasts? The God Clan sneered. There were estimated to be thousands of people on both sides. The scene immediately became a mess. The Beast Clan came to the South Continent and dared to be so arrogant. Brothers of the Human Clan, come with me to help. A human youth roared. Clansmen, we can't watch the God Clan and the Human Clan be bullied. Let's kill them together. A young man of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan also roared. Yes, beat them up. Beat these beasts up. The people of the two races roared angrily as they charged into the battlefield. With their addition, the scene became even more chaotic. For a moment, the Oceanids were a little confused. Weren't they targeting the Oceanids? Why did the Beast Clan and the three races start fighting first? What should we do? Should we help the Beast Clan or not? Help my ass. The Dragon God has caused the Oceanids to be in this state. They deserve it. If it weren't for the fact that the other party is from the Human Clan, the God Clan, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, I would have beaten these beasts up. Many of the Oceanids sneered and stood aside to watch the show. Chapter 4177. More and more people were rushing over from all directions. There were people from all five races. What? The human race, the god race, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race joined forces to bully the beast race? Bastards, do you really think the beast race is easy to bully? What? The beast race actually dares to behave atrociously in the South Continent? These bastards, do they still think they're in the East Continent? Beat them up. As time passed, more and more people from the four races joined the fray. First, there were only a few thousand people. In the end, it slowly became a few 100,000 people. And they were not weak. Their cultivation had basically reached the perfected sovereign realm, but there were differences in the profundities of the laws that they had mastered. The destructive power of a few 100,000 people fighting was not small. Not only was the Black Water Lake razed to the ground, but even the surrounding mountains and rivers were all destroyed. Blood dyed the void and earth red. At this moment, tens of thousands of people from the sea race also gathered, but they were all standing by and watching the show. After all, they were the ones who had started this chaotic battle. But now they were like bystanders. Of course, there were also some more rational or more timid people from the four races watching the battle from afar. Among these spectators, there was a very ordinary-looking old man with a walking stick in his hand. The aura he exuded was not strong, and no one noticed him standing there. If one observed carefully, they would find that his turbid eyes were glowing. This person was actually Qin Feiyang. He also did not expect that the people from the four races would fight first. Logically speaking, with his relationship with the king, the divine king, and the human race's sovereign, he should come forward to help the three races. But now, obviously he could not help. Otherwise, the sea race and the beast race might be suspicious. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and looked up at the sky above the battlefield. He saw the void distort, and a space-time passage quickly appeared. It should be him, Qin Feiyang muttered. As expected, a middle-aged man in a golden robe walked out from the space-time passage. He had golden wings on his back, and he was like a god descending, emitting a great pressure. Lord Neptune. When the several tens of thousands of sea folk saw Neptune, they immediately soared into the air to greet him. What are you guys doing here? If by any chance Qin Feiyang makes a move and kidnaps all of you, this sovereign will have to think of a way to rescue all of you. Wouldn't that be causing trouble for this sovereign? Neptune frowned. The members of the Sea Tribe in front of him were basically the most ordinary members of the Sea Tribe. Facing Qin Feiyang, whom even he, a magnate of the Divine Kingdom, was afraid of, they could only be beaten up. We're just here to take a look. The group of Oceanids lowered their heads. What's there to see? Neptune was furious. He was just causing trouble for him. He looked down at the 4 races and frowned. What is going on? The 3 major races ganged up on the beast race? The beast race deserves it. Who told the dragon god to betray you, my lord? The tens of thousands of oceanic species sneered. Neptune frowned. It seemed that his people's hatred for the beast race was not ordinary. He then shouted, all of you stop. Who dared to disobey Neptune's orders? Even the 3 major races who were unhappy with the oceanic species had to behave. We are all members of the Divine Kingdom. What are you guys doing here? If Qin Feiyang saw this, wouldn't he laugh at you? The sea god shouted angrily. Lord Neptune, even the dragon god betrayed you. Why are you still speaking up for the beast race? Someone from the god race asked. Was there something wrong with this Neptune's brain? This matter is still under investigation. Moreover, even if there is such a thing, it is a personal grudge between this sovereign and the dragon god. Do you need to interfere? Get out of here right now, or bear the consequences. Neptune shouted with a sullen face. Seems like there really is something wrong with his brain. The members of the 3 major races snorted and turned to leave with their seriously injured companions. The casualties of the beasts were even greater. Those who survived were also in an extremely sorry state. They were either missing an arm, a leg, or an ear or a nose. You guys get out too. Neptune looked at the tens of thousands of oceanic species. Yes, a group of oceanic species fled in horror. What a headache. Glancing at the devastated land full of corpses, Neptune rubbed his forehead. How did the relationship between the major races develop to such a situation? Although the 3 major races were not on good terms with the oceanic species and the beast race in the past, there had never been such a large-scale battle. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he looked at the Sea King. Suddenly, he transmitted his voice, Muqing, help me take a look. Where are Inner Demon and Big Cousin now? Okay. Muqing responded. At this moment, he had already come out and was standing in the tea garden. When he heard Qin Feiyang's words, he immediately opened his all-seeing eye. Of course, it was Qin Feiyang who arranged for Muqing to come out in advance. Because in the face of Neptune, he had to be careful. After a while, a smile crept onto Muqing's face as she said, they are inside a spatial divine object, and they are very close to you. He knew about the appearance of the inner demons in Lu Jijin, so now he was not surprised. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. In that case, they should be in Neptune's space divine object. He said again, help me see where Yu Lao is. A short while passed. Muqing said, this old man is with the inner demons in Lu Jijin. What's the situation? Qin Feiyang was a little surprised and said suspiciously, they know that we have the all-seeing eye, but they still did such a stupid thing. Obviously, Yu Lao was hiding in the dark, trying to find a chance to kill him. It's not that they are stupid, it's that they didn't expect that you had seen them with your own eyes when they descended on the Sea God Island. In other words, this Yu Lao still thinks that we don't know what he looks like, and can't use the all-seeing eye to spy on them. As for the inner demons in Lu Jijin, Yu Lao would never think that they are all our people. Muqing laughed, his words full of ridicule. Haha, Qin Feiyang laughed secretly and said, then help me see where the other 8 geniuses of the Central Dynasty are now. Back then, on the Sea God Island, not only Elder Yu but also the inner demons in Lu Jijin. Qin Feiyang also saw the other 8 heavenly tribulations with his own eyes, so he knew what they looked like. They are not with Yu Lao. Soon, Muqing's surprised voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. They are not with Yu Lao? Qin Feiyang was also stunned and asked suspiciously, then where are they now? The Sea God Island. Muqing replied. The Sea God Island. Qin Feiyang was deep in thought. Why did Yu Lao only bring the inner demons and Big Cousin here and leave these 8 people on the Sea God Island? Could it be that these 8 people are not very strong and might be a burden to them? Mu Qing guessed. Don't you think you are underestimating the geniuses of the Central Dynasty? Qin Feiyang was speechless. How could the geniuses brought by Yu Lao along with the inner demons and big cousin be weak? Taking a step back. Even if they were not as strong as the inner demons and big cousin, they could not be a burden. Underestimate them? I think you are overestimating them. However, Neptune is so disobedient. Shouldn't we teach him a lesson? Mu Qing smiled slyly. That's what I was thinking. A smile appeared in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he raised his head to look at the Sea King. Then he left silently. At the same time, Neptune looked around. Why hadn't this person appeared yet? The Sea God Island. After Neptune returned, the Sea clan on the islands had already evacuated. There were only 200,000 to 300,000 core members left on the Sea God Island. However, even if Neptune returned, even if Yu Lao, a big shot from the Central Dynasty, was there, the Sea clan did not let down their guard. What is the meaning of this? He went to the Black Water Lake without us. In an elegant and quiet courtyard, 8 young men and women gathered together with a trace of displeasure on their faces. These were the other 8 geniuses of the Central Dynasty. There is nothing we can do about it. It's because those 2 brothers are stronger than us. Besides, we are going to deal with Qin Feiyang this time. Only those 2 brothers can fight with Qin Feiyang. As for us, we can only kill the mad scientist, the golden-winged wolf king, Long Chan and Long Qin. A young man in a fiery red robe shook his head and sighed. These words were not just arrogant in the ordinary sense. The mad scientist, the white-eyed wolf, Long Chan and Long Qin were just small potatoes in his eyes? If the mad scientist and the others knew about this, they would be furious. No one had ever dared to look down on them in the divine kingdom. Let's not talk about this. I found a few jars of divine wine in the cellar of a restaurant in the West Continent. Tastes really good. One of the young men took out a jar of wine and said with a smile as he opened the seal. Yes. Don't ruin your mood. Actually, think about it. They are going to fight with Qin Feiyang while we are leisurely drinking wine and chatting. Do you feel uncomfortable? Another young man laughed. Hearing this, the others also laughed. Thinking of this, they felt a lot better. Boom! However, before they opened the jar of wine, a terrifying aura suddenly descended on the island. The 8 of them hurriedly looked up and saw an old man in his 70s or 80s walking out of a space-time tunnel with a walking stick. Who is it? How dare you come to the Sea God's Island so ostentatiously? The 8 of them purposely said. Who are you? I am the Sea God's Island. What do you want? Accompanied by a shout, a middle-aged man from the sea race flew into the sky like lightning and looked at the old man walking out of the space-time tunnel with a trace of vigilance in his eyes. Hee. The old man laughed hoarsely. The power of life and death rolled out like a tide. In the next moment, accompanied by a loud bang, the ultimate power of the law of life and death appeared. This is the kingdom of life and death. You are Qin Feiyang. The middle-aged man stared at Qin Feiyang in horror, and then suddenly turned around and ran out of the island. He shouted, Qin Feiyang is attacking. Everyone, escape from the Sea God's Island immediately. What? Qin Feiyang is attacking the Sea God's Island again. When the sea race on the island heard the middle-aged man shout, a deep fear appeared in their eyes. They didn't care about anything and desperately ran out of the island. Chapter 4178. Qin Feiyang ignored the escaping members of the Sea Clan and waved his hand. The kingdom of life and death suspended in the air charged toward the island below with a destructive force. He is Qin Feiyang? Why is it a bad old man? The 8 supreme talents did not escape. They all looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Kingdom of life and death, I really want to experience it. The young man in the red robe suddenly let out a wild laugh. Streaks of ultimacy appeared and a burst of will of the heavenly Tao erupted. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Someone actually dared to attack? He lowered his head and looked in the direction of the voice. It turned out to be a supreme talent from the Central Dynasty. The other acquaintances were also full of fighting spirit. Boom! 7 people. They all burst out with 6 ultimate ultimacy and the will of the heavenly Tao surged in all directions. Will of the heavenly Tao, the supreme talents of the Central Divine Kingdom, really can't be underestimated. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. One had to know. The supreme talents of the God Clan, the Purple Gold Divine Dragons, the Sea Clan, and the Beast Clan had only mastered 2 or 3 ultimate ultimacy. Even the Dragon Son had only grasped 3 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. But these 8 people, all of them had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. These people were already comparable to the supremacies of the 3 major clans. Recalling Mu Qing's words, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Such supreme talents would never be a burden. Boom! The 8 supreme talents joined forces. 48 ultimate ultimacies that contained the will of the heavenly Tao charged toward the kingdom of life and death with shocking power. With a loud bang, the kingdom of life and death collapsed on the spot. Qin Feiyang's face turned slightly pale. A gush of hot blood gushed out from his throat. Although the kingdom of life and death was very powerful, the opponents were after all 8 supreme talents who had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. If he did not use some other means, it was really impossible to defeat the 8 of them. The kingdom of life and death is just Asosa. The young man in the red robe raised his head and laughed. The 8 supreme talents joined forces to defeat my kingdom of life and death. And you are still proud? Qin Feiyang's lips curled with a mocking smile. The young man raised his eyebrows and said with a sinister smile, "Why are you so arrogant? Do you think we are the supreme talents of the 5 major clans? I have the right to be arrogant. Moreover, in my opinion, you are no different from those so-called useless geniuses." Qin Feiyang smiled disdainfully. 3,000 incarnations. 3,000 kingdom of life and death instantly. As the void and the heavenses of the heavenly Tao, of the seed island below, the mountains and the mountains and mountains were like dead mountains, 3000 incarnations. Of the heavenly Tao, the 8 supreme of death, heaven's turn. I thought Yang Hao Qin Feng. In the end, he was no different from the others. He ran away like a dog. Qin Feiyang was disdainful. 3,000 of the world and death rumble. In an instant, the entire sea god's island disappeared from the surface of the sea, including all the resources. It was as if they had evaporated into thin air, leaving only dust in the sky. The 8 supreme talents who escaped were also affected by the shockwave. Their bodies were crushed on the spot. Their divine souls were also being crushed. However, in the end, a trace of their divine souls escaped. Their hearts were filled with fear. Was this Qin Feiyang's strength? 3,000 incarnations and the heavenly Tao's will. He was indeed extraordinarily strong. However, there were no casualties on the sea god's island. This was because they had escaped in time. Moreover, the 8 supreme talents blocked the first kingdom of life and death, which was equivalent to buying them enough time to escape. At the same time, they had already sent a message to Neptune. What? They went to the Sea Lion Island. When the Sea King received the message, he immediately opened up a space-time passage. Of course, Qin Feiyang also noticed that the Sea Tribe had sent a message to Neptune. Originally, he wanted to completely eliminate the 8 supreme talents. After all, they would become his opponents sooner or later. However, he had to give up on this idea when he saw that the Sea Tribe had already notified Neptune. This was because once the Sea King returned, the Sea King, who possessed the power of the origin, could easily kill him. Count yourselves lucky this time. It's better to keep a low profile when you're outside in the future. Also, tell Neptune that this is the price for not keeping his promise. As for the next judgment, we'll meet 3 days later at the Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Don't play any tricks again. Qin Feiyang looked at the 8 supreme talents' divine souls and said indifferently. Then he opened a space-time tunnel and left without looking back. Right after Qin Feiyang left, the Sea King returned to the Sea God's Island. When he saw the turbulent sea surface, his expression immediately became incomparably ferocious. The Sea God's Island was the sacred ground of the Sea Tribe. Now, Qin Feiyang destroyed the entire Sea God's Island. Wasn't that equivalent to slapping his face? Moreover, as a sacred ground, it naturally had a lot of resources. For example, soul vein, crystal vein, medicinal herbs. But now everything had been destroyed. Shame. This is the greatest shame in the history of the Sea Tribe. Qin Feiyang, get out here. Neptune clenched his hands together and roared at the sky. Lord Neptune, you must kill him. Otherwise, our sea tribe will bear this shame for the rest of our lives. Hundreds of thousands of core members of the sea tribe gathered around, their faces filled with grief and indignation. I will. Don't worry. Neptune gritted his teeth. With a thought, Yu Lao and the inner demons appeared. Neptune said, "Yu Lao, you saw it too, right? This is Qin Feiyang's means." Yu Lao lowered his head and scanned the sea surface. His eyes were filled with a shocking cold light. Yu Lao. The remnant souls of the 8 geniuses flew over. How did you guys become like this? Yu Lao was shocked. Do you still need to think about it? They must have overestimated themselves and ran to kill Qin Feiyang. In the end, they were seriously injured by Qin Feiyang. The inner demon sneered. His words were full of contempt for the 8 geniuses. The 8 geniuses immediately glared at the inner demons angrily. Don't gloat. Yu Lao also glared fiercely at the inner demons. Looking at the 8 of them, he said, "Is he alone?" Yes. Before leaving, he also asked us to pass on a message to Neptune. This is the price for not keeping your promise. And he also said that the next negotiation will be in 3 days at the Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Don't play any tricks again. The 8 geniuses said. What does that mean? Does he know that you are hiding in my space divine item? Neptune looked at Yu Lao and the inner demons in surprise. Obviously so. The inner demons pursed his lips. But how did he know? He has never seen Yu Lao or your faces, nor does he know your real names. Mu Qing can't spy on your whereabouts at all. Neptune's face was full of surprise. What the hell is going on? The inner demons and Lu Jiajin certainly knew. When they first came to the Sea God Island, the inner demons had already noticed Qin Feiyang hiding in the dark. However, Neptune, Yu Lao, and the 8 geniuses were all puzzled. Did someone tell them? Neptune suddenly asked. Do you mean that there is really a spy in our divine kingdom? Yu Lao frowned. If there is no spy, then how did Qin Feiyang find your whereabouts? Neptune asked. It must be the dragon god. Someone from the Sea clan around shouted. Yes. Apart from him, there is no one else. And he has also seen Yu Lao. The other members of the Sea clan also roared angrily and murderously. Neptune frowned. No matter what his clansmen said, he still didn't believe that the dragon god would be a spy of the divine kingdom. But apart from the dragon god, who else knew what Yu Lao looked like? The king, the divine king, the supreme being of the human clan, Boss Ji, and a group of elders. But these people were even more impossible. Because if they were spies, then they wouldn't have come to protect the Sea God's island and his clansmen. There is no evidence about the spy, so I can't say anything, but I can't let my guard down. Yu Lao thought for a while, looked at Neptune and said, 3 days later, you will go and meet him alone. You have the power of origin, so if there is a chance you can still kill him. I'm afraid he won't give me this chance so easily. Neptune shook his head and sighed. Yu Lao raised his eyebrows and said angrily, Are you scared out of your wits by him? If he doesn't give you a chance, won't you create one yourself? Neptune's eyes trembled, looking at the angry Yu Lao. He quickly nodded and said, I will try my best. What I want is not to try your best, but to do it. Yu Lao looked at him gloomily, then turned and opened a space-time tunnel. Where are you going? Neptune hurriedly asked. To stay at the Dragon God Mountain for a few days. I can also observe the Dragon God and see if he is a spy. Lu Yunfeng, you two stay here and guard the Sea Tribe. The others follow me to the Dragon God Mountain to recuperate. With that, Yu Lao stepped into the space-time tunnel without looking back. The remnant souls of the 8 prodigies hurriedly followed. Damn old man, don't order me around all day. Who do you think you are? The inner demons shouted angrily. Yu Lao, who had entered the space-time tunnel, heard this and his face darkened. He almost couldn't help but go berserk. The Sea King's heart skipped a beat as he listened. Damned old man? He really dared to say that. He then cupped his hands and said politely, I'll have to trouble you two from now on. Get lost. Do I have an obligation to protect the Sea Tribe? The inner demons looked at him with disdain, then rose into the air and disappeared at the end of the sea. Neptune's face stiffened. Yes, I admit that you have the right to be arrogant. But shouldn't there be a limit to your arrogance? Beside him, Lu Jiajin's gaze suddenly sharpened as well. He looked at the Sea King and said, I advise you not to kill him. Although you have origin energy and have the ability to kill us, it won't do you any good to do so." With that, he turned and left without looking back. Neptune was shocked. How could this person's insight be so terrifying? The inner demon's arrogance and rudeness did make him want to kill them, but it was short-lived and disappeared in the blink of an eye. But he didn't expect to be discovered by this person. What kind of monsters were these two? In his heart, his fear of the inner demons and Lu Jijin deepened. Chapter 4179. Mount Supreme. In a large hall, the king, the divine king, and the human race supremes gathered together. "I really admire this kid." He said that he would negotiate at the Black Water Lake, but in the blink of an eye, he ran to the Sea God's Island. This time the Sea God's Island was destroyed. Neptune will probably die of anger. The divine king shook his head. He thought that Qin Feiyong would be more restrained when the people of the Central Dynasty arrived, but he didn't expect him to be so crazy. This time it's really Qin Feiyong's fault. If it wasn't for Neptune's evil intentions, would he have gone to destroy the Sea God's Island? The human race supremes shook their heads. He reaped what he sowed. Although the sea race didn't suffer any casualties, the resources of the Sea God's Island occupied almost half of the entire sea race. For Neptune, losing the resources of the Sea God's Island was probably more painful than losing the people on the island. But then again, we didn't seem to have told him the names and appearances of Yu Lao and the others. But how could Mu Qing use the all-seeing eye to spy on their whereabouts? The king was puzzled. Who knows? The divine king shook his head. You can't treat this group of little guys with ordinary eyes, otherwise you will definitely suffer a great loss. Just like this time, Yu Lao and Neptune were too arrogant, which was why they ended up in such a sorry state. However, if this group of brats' plan can really succeed, then it can directly break the current deadlock. It's more helpful for the current situation. The divine king said. That's right. At present, the only thing that can make us afraid is the origin energy in the hands of Neptune and the dragon god. As long as Neptune loses his origin energy, then there's nothing to worry about. Moreover, when Qin Feiyong obtains Neptune's origin energy, then he can fight with the dragon god. This time, the reason why I called you all over is to discuss this matter. The human race supremes looked at the two and said, "What's there to discuss?" Both the monarch and the divine king were confused. Because this matter was handled by Qin Feiyong, it had nothing to do with them. They only needed to wait for the good news from Qin Feiyong. What I mean is, if Qin Feiyong successfully obtains the origin energy in Neptune's hands and successfully controls the dragon god will become our ally. In other words, from now on, our only enemies will be the Oceanids and the Central Dynasty. Humans, beasts, purple gold dragons, and beasts. If we work together, we should be able to fight against the Oceanic race and the Central Dynasty. The eyes of the human race's supreme martial artist shone brightly, and a murderous aura emanated from his body. The divine king asked in surprise, "Are you saying that we will officially rebel when Qin Feiyong controls the dragon god?" Cough cough. Don't say it so bluntly. The word rebel sounds a bit the human race supremes coughed. The divine king rolled his eyes. A rebellion is a rebellion. What's the point of looking for an excuse? The human race supreme smiled and asked, "What do you think?" The monarch and the divine king looked at each other and hesitated. "What are you hesitating about?" The human race supremes was suspicious. If we know the Central Dynasty's strength, we can declare war directly. But currently, we know nothing about the Central Dynasty's situation. It's a bit rash to declare war now. The divine king pondered. Think so too. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy, and victory is assured. Before declaring war, we must first figure out the Central Dynasty's strength. What if, I'm just saying if the people from the Central Dynasty also control origin power, then we'll be in big trouble. The monarch was worried. This step had to be foolproof, because he couldn't afford to gamble. The divine king couldn't afford to gamble either. The human race supremes couldn't afford to gamble either, because once they lost, it wasn't just their personal matter. The entire god race, the human race, And the purple gold divine dragon race would face a disaster because of this. The human race supremes pondered for a while and nodded. It seems that I was too impatient. The monarch and the divine king's concerns weren't without reason. If they were all alone and could do whatever they wanted. Anyway, even if they died, it wouldn't implicate others. But there was no other way. Now they were all rulers of a region. Any decision would affect the entire race. So, they didn't have the capital to be willful, and they didn't have the qualifications to fail. In short, they had to win this battle. Then let's continue to bide our time. The human race supreme shook his head and smiled. No, we should also do something. The monarch waved his hand. What can we do? The divine king and the human race supremes were taken aback and looked at him suspiciously. Spirit vein, crystal vein. Didn't Qin Feiyang say that the more spirit veins and crystal veins there are, the faster Qin Feiyang's growth will be? We can't give him other things, but spirit veins and crystal veins for us, aren't they easy? The monarch smiled slightly. The two looked at each other. This wasn't a problem. The growth of the Black Tortoise realm is not only beneficial to the growth of the sovereign divine weapon, but also the origin power. There are only two ways to deal with the divine kingdom's origin power. The first is the power of faith. But the power of faith is really too difficult. And now the people of the central dynasty have arrived. We don't dare to change the faith of our people, because if the people of the central dynasty find out, they will definitely be suspicious of us. So, we can only start with the second way, the origin power. As long as the Black Tortoise realm becomes as powerful as the divine kingdom, won't it be easy to deal with the divine kingdom's origin power? The monarch smiled slightly. Makes sense. The two nodded. Although the growth of the Black Tortoise realm was very slow in the big picture, this was the safest way. Moreover, they had endured in the divine kingdom for so many years, and they didn't lack this little bit of time. The other thing was, when Qin Feiyang and the sovereign of the divine kingdom fought, the divine kingdom would definitely be destroyed. Rather than letting these spirit veins and crystal veins be destroyed in the battle, it was better to give them to Qin Feiyang as soon as possible. Since there are no objections, let's take action. The monarch said. Who are you talking about that I have no objections? The divine king snorted coldly. Ah! The monarch looked at the divine king in shock. Qin Feiyang is a descendant of your purple gold divine dragon clan. If you help him now, it's the same as helping yourself. Furthermore, if your purple gold divine dragon clan is in trouble in the future, he will definitely help you regardless of his own safety. But what about us? We are not related at all. What if Qin Feiyang really grows up and turns his back on us and doesn't care about our lives? The divine king pursed his lips. The monarch heard this and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. He was speechless. Aren't you worried for nothing? Is Qin Feiyang such a person? Then who knows? You may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. The divine king sneered and turned to look at the sovereign of the human race. What do you think? The sovereign of the human race smiled but didn't say anything. The monarch looked at the divine king helplessly and said, If you say so, then there's nothing I can do. After all, you won't believe my guarantee. How about this? Find a time and let Qin Feiyang take us to the Black Tortoise realm and have a good look. The divine king said. What do you mean? The monarch was a little puzzled. I think the creatures of the Black Tortoise realm must know him very well. The divine king chuckled. All right. I won't speak for him. After all, seeing is believing. There's no need to find another time. Let's do it now. With that, the monarch took out the divine voice stone and sent a message to Qin Feiyang. The divine king hurriedly said, Just say that you're curious about the Black Tortoise realm and want to go in and take a look. Not to mention us, I don't want him to know. Right now, I'm doubting his character and it's affecting harmony. All right. The monarch nodded with a bitter smile. Buzz. Not long after, Qin Feiyang's figure appeared. Seeing the three giants gathered together, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He smiled and said, Seniors, do you have any orders? We have nothing to do, so we want to go to your Black Tortoise realm for a stroll. You won't refuse, right? The monarch chuckled. Go to the Black Tortoise realm for a stroll? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Were they all so free and relaxed? It's just a small wish and you're hesitating. Could it be that you're hiding some secrets in the Black Tortoise realm? The Divine King teased. Qin Feiyong was stunned. He shook his head and smiled. What secrets could I have? I'm just surprised. All right, I'll go and pick you guys up now. All right. We're at Mount Supreme. The monarch nodded and told Qin Feiyong the location of the meeting. Then he turned off the divine voice stone. Qin Feiyong silently landed in a valley outside Mount Supreme. Because right now, no one knew about his alliance with the three races. Therefore, unless it was an emergency, it was better not to enter Mount Supreme. When he appeared in the valley, the monarch and the other two also arrived. Brat, you're amazing. Right now, Neptune probably wants to skin you alive. The monarch said. That can't be helped. He asked for it. Qin Feiyong shrugged. It's indeed a bit like asking for humiliation. But aren't you just wasting the resources on the Sea God's Island by destroying it? You should first transfer all the resources to the Black Tortoise realm, and then destroy the Sea God's Island. The monarch sighed. I wanted to. But there's not enough time. Qin Feiyong shook his head. If possible, he definitely wouldn't let go of the resources on the Sea God's Island. All right, bring us to the Black Tortoise realm. This time we must take a good look around and experience the scenery of the Black Tortoise realm. The monarch smiled. How carefree. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. He waved his hand and brought the three of them to the Devil's Land. Since I have time now, I'll accompany you guys to take a look around. No need, we'll go by ourselves. The Divine King waved his hand. Huh. Qin Feiyong looked at the three of them. What are they planning? Huh. The human race supreme scanned the Devil's Land and soon found something strange. The people and beasts here were actually fusing with the inheritance of the ultimate profound? Why are there so many inheritances here? The human race supreme asked, Can I release my divine sense? He couldn't believe it, so he wanted to confirm it with his divine sense. Of course. Qin Feiyong nodded. The human race supreme immediately released his divine sense and shrouded the Devil's Land. His face was full of shock. Seeing this, the Divine King and the monarch also released their divine sense. When they saw it, they were also shocked. Chapter 4180. Where on earth did you find so many inheritances? It's even richer than our divine kingdom. The Divine King looked at Qin Feiyong in disbelief. This, you'll know in the future. For now, I won't reveal it. Qin Feiyong smiled mysteriously. The Divine King rolled his eyes at him. At this moment she even had an illusion. Could Qin Feiyong create the inheritance of the ultimate mysteries? Otherwise, how could there be so many? Everyone was fusing, and they were all ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. Even if everyone had one, there would still be thousands of them. Even they had never seen the inheritance of thousands of ultimate laws and ultimate profundities. It was truly inconceivable. You really don't need me to lead the way? Qin Feiyong asked. No need. You do your own thing. The Divine King calmed down the shock in his heart and waved his hand at Qin Feiyong. Then, he looked at the monarch and the human race's supremacy and turned to leave together. What the hell? Qin Feiyong looked at the backs of the three with a puzzled face. Then, he entered the tea garden and made a pot of tea. While drinking, he released his perception to observe the three. Half a day passed. Realization finally dawned on his face. It turned out that they were here to investigate his background and character. It seemed that the Divine King and the human race's supremacy still didn't trust him. But this was also good. He could use this opportunity to let the Divine King and the human race's supremacy completely understand his character so that they could let go of their worries. He was still confident in this matter, because he had always had a clear conscience towards the creatures of the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong used his perception again to find Pai Lupi and Theta Wang and said, You guys pay attention. Don't interfere with where the monarch and the other two go, but don't let them go to the Soul-Sealing Valley. The monarch and the others came to the Black Tortoise world? Pai Lupi was surprised. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Okay. We'll be careful. The two of them replied. The reason why he didn't let the three of them go to the Soul-Sealing Valley was because he still wanted to keep this a secret. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed outside. In the Black Tortoise world, it had already been 15,000 years. Seeing that the monarch and the other two had not returned, Qin Feiyong did not rush them. He got up and walked towards Mu Qing's courtyard. Through Mu Qing's all-seeing eye, Neptune had already arrived at the Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Furthermore, this time he was indeed alone. Hence Qin Feiyong left the Black Tortoise world alone and headed to the Thousand Phoenix Mountain range. Thousand Phoenix Mountain. It had long since ceased to exist. At this moment, a golden figure stood in the void with a gloomy expression. It was Neptune. Whoosh! A space-time tunnel appeared. Neptune immediately turned his head, his eyes flashing coldly. This was because the aura coming from the space-time tunnel belonged to Qin Feiyong. The next moment, Qin Feiyong walked out of the passage and said with a smile, "Sorry to have kept you waiting." Cut the crap. Neptune's face was gloomy. Alright, let's get straight to the point. To tell you the truth, none of the Sea Clan members that I kidnapped died. However, if you want me to let them go, you have to agree to one condition, Qin Feiyong said. Not a single one died. This result surprised Neptune, because in his opinion with Qin Feiyong's methods, he would definitely kill these people. You don't have to doubt it, because I disdain lying about such things. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Neptune frowned and asked, "Then what is your condition?" "One thing. That is the origin energy in your hands." Qin Feiyong smiled. Neptune's gaze suddenly trembled. It turned out that this person was after the origin energy in his hands. Although there is only one condition, it is also the only condition. If you want to save these people, then you have to meet my condition, Qin Feiyong said. There was no room for negotiation. Neptune's face was gloomy and uncertain. Suddenly he sneered and said, "Your calculations are really good. As long as you get the origin energy in this king's hands, you can fight with the dragon god." Yes, Qin Feiyong nodded. There was no need to deny such a thing. Why do you keep targeting the dragon god? Neptune frowned. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. But if people offend me, I will do whatever it takes. Back then at the Dragon God Mountain, because of this hypocrite, I almost fell into your encirclement. This debt must be settled with him. Qin Feiyong smiled coldly. I'm afraid it's not that simple. You finding trouble with the dragon god should also be related to the origin energy in his hands, Neptune said. Lord Neptune is really amazing. You can even think of this. That's right. The origin energy of the divine kingdom is the biggest threat to me, so I have to get rid of the biggest threat first. As Qin Feiyong said this, he suddenly looked at Neptune's right hand that was hidden in his sleeve. Neptune's expression was slightly flustered, and he directly put his right hand behind his back. Don't hide it. You're holding the divine soundstone in your hand, right? Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Neptune raised his eyebrows. He was actually discovered? You are indeed more difficult to deal with than the dragon god. While tricking me, you used the divine soundstone to record it, so as to absolve the dragon god. However, I have been using this method since I was a teenager, so in front of me you don't have to be so secretive. Qin Feiyong chuckled. When Neptune heard this, his face suddenly turned red. It was as if he was mocking him. The method he used when he was a teenager and now he, an old antique, was still using it? Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed, and he said with a smile, It's impossible for you to get an answer from me, let alone expect me to absolve the dragon god. But you clearly said just now that you're targeting him. Neptune sneered. I did say that. And I am indeed targeting the dragon god. But what can this mean? Can it mean that I framed Ji Tianfeng's death? Or does it mean that I'm the one who framed him for leaking the information? It doesn't seem to be the case. Qin Feiyong laughed. Neptune's brows were tightly knitted. Regarding these two matters, Qin Feiyong did not give a clear answer before. But I think you're really interesting. Qin Feiyong shook his head. What do you mean? Neptune raised his eyebrows. The 20 sea gods are all in my hands. The lives of millions of sea clansmen are now in danger. The sea gods' island is destroyed. You're in a very difficult situation now, but even so, you didn't forget to help the dragon god. I really don't know how to evaluate you. Should I say that you're loyal and righteous? Or should I say that you're stupid? Qin Feiyong had a playful look on his face. Don't be too presumptuous. Neptune suppressed his voice. His expression was extremely gloomy. This was a blatant mockery of him. Don't be angry, I'm just stating a fact. Don't be in a hurry to answer me, think about it carefully. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly, and with a wave of his hand, the millions of sea clansmen imprisoned in the desert of death immediately appeared in the void beside him. Lord Neptune. Seeing Neptune, the group of sea clansmen was immediately overjoyed. What do you mean by this? Neptune looked at Qin Feiyong in confusion. He actually took the initiative to release so many of his clansmen? It seemed to be a very good thing. But his heart was beating a little fast because Qin Feiyong couldn't be such a kind person. It's a deal, of course there must be sincerity. This is my sincerity. I hope that you can also show your sincerity. After all, the sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members of the sea clansmen are still in my hands. 3 days later. Give me an answer on time here. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly, opened a space-time tunnel, turned around and left without looking back. Neptune stared at Qin Feiyong's back, his eyes flickering. He was hesitating, should he make a move? But in the end, he gave up this idea. Because the sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members of the sea clansmen were still in danger. In comparison, the millions of clansmen in front of him couldn't be compared to the value of the sea gods and the hundreds of thousands of core members. Moreover, the sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members were imprisoned in the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong, as the ruler of the Black Tortoise world, could completely kill all the clansmen before he could do anything. Lord Neptune, you're letting him go just like that? You must kill him. Not only did he imprison us, but he also let his subordinates steal all our divine arts and artifacts. Millions of sea clansmen roared angrily. Shut up. Neptune frowned. What's the big deal about a mere divine art and artifact? 20 sea gods and hundreds of thousands of core members, this is the most important thing. Seeing Neptune angry, millions of sea clansmen shrank their necks and immediately quieted down. Neptune suppressed the anger in his heart and asked, Are the sea gods and the other clansmen okay now? We didn't see them. The group of people shook their heads. You didn't see them? Neptune was slightly stunned and frowned. They weren't imprisoned with you. No. We were imprisoned in a desert. Apart from Qin Feiyong's 2 subordinates, we didn't see anyone else. Moreover, what imprisoned us is the power of laws of the Black Tortoise world. Therefore, we couldn't escape at all, so we don't know the situation of the sea gods. The group of people spoke at once. Hearing this, Neptune immediately looked up at the dissipating space-time tunnel. They were actually imprisoned separately. This was obviously to not give him a chance to rescue them. Because even if he released millions of clansmen, he wouldn't be able to obtain any valuable information, so naturally, he wouldn't be able to come up with a plan to rescue them. What a cunning little bastard. Actually, he didn't know. He was just overthinking. They were imprisoned separately because they didn't want him to know that the hundreds of thousands of core clansmen had been stripped of their ultimate mysteries. Because if he knew, these hundreds of thousands of core clansmen wouldn't be of much value. Go back. Without this sovereign's order, no one is allowed to leave the sea from now on. Neptune took a deep breath and suppressed the irritation in his heart as he looked at the millions of clansmen and said solemnly, Okay. The millions of sea clansmen nodded in fear. Their hearts were filled with despair. Even Lord Neptune couldn't do anything to Qin Feiyong. Chapter 3, release at 9 a.m. End of chapter. Chapter 4181. When Qin Feiyong left the Thousand Phoenix Mountain, he directly returned to the Devil's Land and found that the king and the other 2 were sitting in the tea garden, leisurely sipping tea. What tea? So fragrant, Qin Feiyong muttered. It was as if he was looking at a sky full of gods and Buddhas, and hearing the chanting of scriptures. When he ran over and saw the teapot, he was dumbfounded. In the teapot there was a Bodhi fruit. Golden light flickered, and the divinity was astonishing. Although he had obtained the Bodhi tree for so long, he had never been willing to drink it. Because the supreme grade divine tea, just looking at it was enough to satisfy him. But he didn't expect these 3 to be so impolite and directly pluck a Bodhi fruit into the tea. This caused him great heartache. What expression? Didn't I just pluck a Bodhi fruit from you? The divine king looked at him unhappily. Isn't it? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned. He silently looked at the divine king, who was enjoying it, and wanted to cry but had no tears. You're really arrogant. Even the supreme grade divine tea was said so lightly. The human race supreme laughed and said, but thanks to you, I finally tasted the taste of the Bodhi fruit. I have to say, this supreme grade divine tea is indeed extraordinary. No. As long as the three of you are happy. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. At this point, what else could he say? It was better to be generous. Truth? The king looked at him mockingly. Qin Feiyong braced himself and nodded. Look at you as if someone stole your treasure. The king shook his head and laughed. Sit down and drink together. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. It was a good opportunity to taste it. When he picked up the teacup and the tea entered his mouth, his mind suddenly became empty. The fatigue and negative emotions in his heart also seemed to be purified, and his whole body became clean. Moreover, his potential and comprehension seemed to have improved a little. Sure enough, it was true. This Bodhi fruit had great divine power. How's the talk with Neptune? The king asked with a smile. It's all right. Qin Feiyong smiled and looked down at the teacup. If he brought this tea back to Great Qin, wouldn't he be able to create a bunch of geniuses? Are you all right? The three of them looked at each other, then looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously and asked, what does this mean? He neither agreed nor refused. Qin Feiyong said, ugh. The three of them were dumbfounded. How could this be considered all right? However, he doesn't have a choice unless he gives up on the sea gods and the hundreds of thousands of core clansmen. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. That shouldn't be possible. After all, these people are the cornerstones of the oceanic race. If we lose them, the oceanic race's vitality will be greatly damaged. I don't know how long it will take for them to recover. The divine king said. Yeah. Therefore, he could only agree. Now we're just giving him some time to struggle. Qin Feiyong smiled. The divine king nodded. Suddenly, he thought of something and frowned. Is there a secret in your soul-sealing valley? Soul-sealing valley. Qin Feiyong was stunned and smiled. How could there be a secret in that place? Don't give me that. We've been to the entire Black Tortoise world, but when we went to Soul-Sealing Valley, we were stopped by your two subordinates. They wouldn't let us go no matter what. Moreover, we didn't find the sea gods and the hundreds of thousands of core clansmen. I think they should be imprisoned in Soul-Sealing Valley. The divine king said. The sea gods were imprisoned in the ancient castle, but their auras were sealed by the ancient castle. Whether it was the three kings or the heavenly Peng and the 20 sea gods, they couldn't sense each other's auras. I really can't hide anything from you. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly. The divine king was confused. Why can't we see it? Of course we can't. If they see you all strolling around the Black Tortoise world, then wouldn't the matter of our alliance be exposed? Moreover, it's better not to go there. The smell is really bad. Qin Feiyong said. The king said with a dark face, so you're still thinking for us? Of course. Qin Feiyong nodded. The king's mouth twitched. What a slippery little bastard. Right. Didn't you Lao ask you to gather at the Dragon God Mountain 3 days later? It's time to go now. Qin Feiyong looked at the three and said. The divine king was stunned and said angrily, are you in such a hurry to chase us away? No. Important matters are more important. Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand. What's the hurry? It's not too late to go at night. The divine king said casually. Don't. They're from the Central Dynasty after all. We still have to give them face. Qin Feiyong smiled. Brat, didn't we just take one of your Bodhi fruits? Do you have to be so stingy? Moreover, when we killed Ji Tianfeng back then, you even promised us that you would give us some Bodhi fruits. The divine king's face darkened. Hearing this, Qin Feiyong gritted his teeth and said, fine, you two go ahead and take them. Really? The divine king stood up and asked. Yes. Qin Feiyong endured the pain in his heart and nodded. The divine king pursed his lips and looked at the supremacy of the human race. Since this brat is so filial to us, we won't be polite with him. The supremacy of the human race shook his head and laughed. The divine king put down the teacup and walked to the two Bodhi trees and took out dozens of exquisite jade boxes. Each jade box was the size of an adult's palm. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang suddenly became anxious. Taking out so many jade boxes, was he planning to sweep them all away? No. At least leave some for him. The divine king carefully picked the Bodhi fruits and gently put them into the jade boxes. Each jade box could hold 3 of them. Soon, the divine king had placed 5 jade boxes, which meant that there were 15 pills. Every time the divine king picked one, Qin Feiyang's heart would ache. When the 10th jade box was filled, the divine king glanced at Qin Feiyang and couldn't help but want to laugh. Actually, she had been observing Qin Feiyang and saw that the more heartache Qin Feiyang was, the more she wanted to tease him. So, she raised her hand again and gently grabbed a Bodhi fruit. Enough. Don't pick anymore, there's almost none left. Qin Feiyang wailed in his heart. But the divine king suddenly let go of the Bodhi fruit. You're not picking anymore? Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment and secretly let out a long breath. Fortunately, there was still a lot left. But the next moment, the divine king's voice sounded and asked, "This box is too small, Supreme Being, do you have a bigger one?" Hearing this, Qin Feiyang immediately couldn't sit still. A bigger box? You can't be like this, do you have to sweep it all away? Haha, suddenly. The divine king laughed. With a wave of his hand, 5 jade boxes were left and the rest were put away. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Look at how anxious you are, I'm just teasing you." Huh. Qin Feiyang looked at the divine king in astonishment. The divine king walked over and handed the 5 jade boxes left outside to the supreme being of the human race. 10 jade boxes, 30 Bodhi fruits, the 2 of them divided equally. Do you really think we will be so greedy? The divine king rolled his eyes at him. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and smiled embarrassedly. His little heart really couldn't bear it. The king watched the whole process, his face flushed red, and said with a smile, "Let's go to the Dragon God Mountain. This kid is right, after all. He is from the Central Dynasty, we have to give him enough face." Okay. Anyway, a certain brat can't wait for us to get out of here as soon as possible. The divine king nodded. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. The divine king suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "By the way, I have good news to tell you." But before the divine king could say anything, the king stopped him and said, "Don't tell him yet." Huh. The divine king was puzzled. Qin Feiyang also had a suspicious look on his face. What good news? The king chuckled and said, "When we are ready, we will give him a surprise, no, a shock." A shock? The divine king was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, "That's right, for things like this, it is better to tell him at the end." What are you talking about? A surprise one moment, a shock the next. Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 of them in a panic. Don't worry, it must be good news. That's all for now. Send us out. The king smiled slightly. The more he said this, the more uneasy Qin Feiyang felt. However, there was nothing he could do about these 3 giants, so he could only send them out obediently. Chapter 4182. Dragon God Mountain. At this moment, 3 figures were sitting in the pavilion with a pot of divine tea on the table. The fragrance of the tea assailed their nostrils. It was Yulao the dragon god and Neptune. Yulao tasted the tea, put down the teacup and shook his head. It's still not as good as 9th Master Ji's Bodhi fruit. Mine is only a high-grade divine tea, while the Bodhi fruit is a supreme-grade divine tea. Naturally, it can't be compared. However, you know old Manji's character, he loves tea as much as his life. Not to mention the Bodhi fruit, he can't even bear to part with the Bodhi leaf. Neptune laughed. This also depends on the person. For example, if I go to him, no matter what, he has to take out the Bodhi fruit to entertain me. Yulao smiled proudly. That's right, that's right. Neptune nodded, his face full of flattery. But the dragon god? At this moment, he was completely uninterested in any tea, and would look up at the sky from time to time. Don't be anxious, it's still early. Neptune comforted him. Why should I be anxious? I'm just afraid that Yulao will wait for too long. They know that Yulao is waiting here, but they aren't more proactive. The dragon god snorted coldly. Maybe there's something delaying them. Yulao laughed hoarsely. What can happen to them? I think they're doing it on purpose, not giving you face. The dragon god sneered. Don't talk nonsense. Neptune stared at the dragon god. Wasn't he trying to stir up trouble? Although Yu Lao was more inclined to the Sea clan and the God clan, he couldn't ignore the Human clan, the God clan, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. Moreover, sometimes it's not good to talk too much. The dragon god pursed his lips, held the teacup, and was about to drink. Swish. But at this moment, a space-time passage appeared in the sky. The king and the other two walked out. You're really arrogant, making Yu Lao wait for you for so long. The dragon god put down his teacup and looked up at the three of them. The three of them looked at each other and landed in front of the pavilion. The monarch looked at the dragon god and said indifferently, "You didn't say what time it would be. Even if we came at night, there shouldn't be a problem. Also, don't rely on Yu Lao's presence to intimidate others. I haven't settled Ji Tianfeng's debt with you." You. The dragon god glared at the king. All right. It's not like he's an outsider. Don't talk so much. Yu Lao waved his hand. He raised his head to look at the three people and said with a smile, "Sit down and talk." Yes. The three of them entered the pavilion and sat around a table. Neptune had already poured tea for the three of them. You are the most trusted people of the Lord Ruler. Now that the Lord Ruler is not here, you have to take on the responsibility of maintaining the order of the Divine Kingdom and protecting the interests of the Divine Kingdom. If you continue to fight like this, won't the enemies of our Divine Kingdom have more opportunities to take advantage of the situation? Yu Lao sighed, but a glint flashed in his eyes. What did you say? The Lord Ruler is not here. The monarch and the other two were surprised. Don't you know? Yu Lao was suspicious. I don't know. The monarch shook his head, looked at him in confusion and asked, "What do you mean?" When Qin Feiyang and the others broke into the Divine Kingdom, I saw the Lord Ruler. Why are you saying that he's not here now? Yu Lao looked at the monarch, then looked at the Divine King and the supreme being of the human race. He shook his head and said, "It seems that you really don't know that the Lord Ruler has left the Divine Kingdom." Huh? When did this happen? The three of them were very surprised. On the day Qin Feiyang and the others entered the Divine Kingdom. In short, it's a long story. The Divine Kingdom now depends on you. So you must not have any internal strife. Because you are all the rulers of the major races, especially the monarch. You are the monarch of the Divine Kingdom. And now you have to bear a greater responsibility than anyone else. Yu Lao looked at the monarch and said in a deep tone, "As the monarch of the Divine Kingdom, I will definitely not shirk my responsibility. But I also won't allow anyone to harm my family like this." The monarch glanced at the dragon god, a cold light flashing in his eyes. The dragon god said gloomily, "How many times do I have to say it? Ji Tianfeng's death has nothing to do with me. It was Qin Feiyang and the others who framed me. Where's the evidence? I only look at the evidence." The monarch sneered. "Don't go too far. I, the dragon god, will lower myself and personally attack Ji Tianfeng." The dragon god said angrily. "Then who knows? Anyway, I saw with my own eyes that he died on your dragon god mountain." The monarch's eyes became colder. Seeing the atmosphere getting stiffer and stiffer, Yu Lao looked at Neptune and asked, "How's the matter I asked you to investigate? This Qin Feiyang is too cunning. He didn't give me a chance at all." Neptune shook his head regretfully and took out the divine sound transmission stone. An image appeared. It was the lake he recorded at Thousand Phoenix Mountain. After watching the image, Yu Lao sighed. I really didn't expect that there would be such a difficult person in the Tianyun realm. Yeah. This is the first time I'm afraid of a young man. The feeling he gives me is that of a wily old fox. Neptune sighed and put away the divine sound transmission stone. In that case, there's still no evidence. The monarch looked at the dragon god and smiled coldly, then looked at Yu Lao and said, "This junior has long heard of your character. You are a person of virtue and prestige, fair and just in doing things, so I hope that this time you can handle it impartially." What was the purpose of Yu Lao coming out of the Central Dynasty? Wasn't it to resolve the grudge between him and the dragon god? If Neptune got the evidence this time, he would have nothing to say. But now Neptune had no evidence. Without evidence, he naturally had to bite the dragon god to death. As for this flattery, it wasn't to curry favor with Yu Lao. Although Yu Lao was from the Central Dynasty, it wasn't worth it for him to grovel to curry favor. In layman's terms, this flattery was actually to set a trap for Yu Lao. He had already guessed Yu Lao's plan. Even if Neptune didn't get the evidence, he had to let go of these grudges and reconcile with the dragon god. So, the king took the initiative to strike first. He flattered Yu Lao, saying that he was highly respected and fair. In this way, Yu Lao would be embarrassed to side with the dragon god. Otherwise, the so-called highly respected and fair would undoubtedly become a joke. As expected, Yu Lao's words were already at the tip of his tongue, but when he heard the king's words, he suddenly didn't know how to speak. If he didn't speak up for the dragon god, the king would definitely not let go. In the future, the grudge between the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan and the Beast clan would probably be out of control. But if he continued to speak up for the dragon god, it would be equivalent to him lifting a head and smashing his own foot. In the future, everyone might talk about him behind his back, not knowing right from wrong and siding with the dragon god. For a moment, he was in a difficult position. Yu Lao, I know that you hope that all the major clans will unite as one and face the outside world together, but he started this matter first. You can ask the dragon god. My Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan has never taken the initiative to provoke his Beast clan. Of course, if it was just an ordinary clansman, I would be too lazy to pursue the matter. But this time the one who died was Ji Tianfeng, my nephew. As the saying goes, before you hit a dog you have to look at its owner. What did he do to me, the king, by doing this? Say if it were you, would you let it go? The king looked at Yu Lao and said angrily. Sigh. Yu Lao sighed. It seemed that it was really difficult to leave this matter unsettled. Actually, I also know that the dead can't be brought back to life. Now it's meaningless for me to pursue the matter, but I just can't get over it. I'm the king and he killed my nephew. Does he still put me in his eyes? Moreover, I'm not important. What's important is those old men. They must pursue the matter to the end. You know their temper. If the dragon god doesn't give them a satisfactory explanation, they won't stop. The king sighed. This old man is indeed clear about the character of these old men. Yu Lao nodded and smiled bitterly. He knew this group of old men too well. Once they were angered, even if he came forward, it would be useless. I do have a way to solve this. The divine king spoke at this time. What solution? Everyone looked at him suspiciously. The dragon god will personally apologize, the divine king said. The dragon god suddenly said angrily, I didn't do it, why should I apologize? Once he apologized, wouldn't he admit that he did it? Fine. Good intentions are regarded as ill intent. Pretend I didn't say anything. The divine king sneered. Simply didn't know how to appreciate kindness. In fact, her suggestion seemed to be for the dragon god's good, but in fact it was also a trap for the dragon god. Because, as the dragon god thought, if he went to apologize it would be equivalent to admitting that he did it. In this way, the dragon god would inevitably be spurned by the world in the future. Unfortunately, the dragon god didn't fall for it. However, looking back, besides apologizing, what other solution was there? There was none. Therefore, as long as the dragon god didn't want this matter to be blown up, he had to make a statement. Yu Lao pondered for a while and nodded. This old man thinks that the divine king's suggestion is feasible. Yu Lao, the dragon god looked at him anxiously. Can you think of a better way? Yu Lao asked. The dragon god went silent. I can't think of anything. Then I can only apologize. Besides, it's just an apology, it won't cost you anything. I think this matter is decided. Yu Lao made the final decision. The longer this matter was delayed, the harder it would be to deal with it. The dragon god felt wronged. I invited you all the way from the Central Dynasty and this is how you solve it. Who doesn't know how to solve it? Let's leave it at that for now. Just bear with it for a while. Neptune knew the dragon god better and knew that this matter might make the dragon god feel resentful, so he quickly comforted him secretly. If even Yu Lao was offended, then this matter would be completely unsolvable. The dragon god glanced at the sea monarch and said telepathically, All right, for your sake, I'll swallow my anger first. That's right. A little impatience spoils great plans. The Sea King smiled inwardly. The grudge between the dragon god and the purple gold divine dragon clan will end here. Next, let's discuss the misunderstanding between the sea folk and the dragon god. Yu Lao said, "There's no need to discuss this matter. I believe in the dragon god." The sea folk laughed. "Good brother. Not like some people." The dragon god looked at the dragon god gratefully, then stared at the king. The meaning of his words was self-evident. The king directly ignored this and said indifferently, "Since Neptune himself won't pursue it, then there's naturally no need for us outsiders to meddle in other people's business. Divine King Jizun, don't you agree?" Yes. The two nodded. Chapter 4183. Yu Lao glanced at the three and smiled meaningfully. "Your relationship is pretty good now. No matter what you do, you choose to advance and retreat together." "Why don't I understand what you mean?" The Divine King looked at him suspiciously. "Do you really not understand? Or are you pretending?" Yu Lao chuckled. The three looked at each other with a hint of mockery in their eyes. The Divine King said indifferently, "Since we've already said so much, let's put the problem out there." "What problem?" Yu Lao was puzzled. "You said we were pretending, but you're not pretending? For the Divine Kingdom, we three races have done our best. Take the invasion of the Sky Cloud realm as an example. How much did we sacrifice? And what did the Beast race and the Sea race pay? It can be said that our three races have done no wrong to anyone. But what about the Lord Ruler and your central dynasty? How did you treat us? Not to say that you treated us better than the Beast race and the Sea race, but you should at least treat us the same. But now we, who have wholeheartedly served the Lord Ruler, are inferior to the Sea race and the Beast race who have been standing by and watching the show. May I ask, is this fair to us?" The Divine King looked at Yu Lao aggressively. Yu Lao frowned. "We always thought that the Lord Ruler was fair to us. But it wasn't until Tianfeng was killed that we learned that the Dragon God and Neptune were both bestowed with the power of origin. If the Lord Ruler was fair and bestowed us with the power of origin, would Qin Feiyang and the others be so arrogant until now? So we were forced into a corner and could only huddle together for warmth." The Divine King shook his head and sighed. Yu Lao looked embarrassed when he heard this. Saying it so bluntly, he really didn't give him any face. The king waved his hand and said, "Divine King, there's nothing to complain about. No matter how others treat us, as long as we have a clear conscience, it's fine. I'm not as magnanimous as you. Since the Lord Ruler has bestowed upon Neptune and the Dragon God the power of the origin, he has naturally given them the courage of the Divine Kingdom. So, in the future, I'll have to count on you two to deal with Qin Feiyang and the others." The Divine King looked at Neptune and the Dragon God. "Are you planning to wash your hands of this matter?" Neptune frowned. "I want to. But do I have the ability? You've all seen Qin Feiyang's life and death laws and will of the heavenly Tao. Apart from your origin energy, who else can suppress him? Therefore, this heavy responsibility is incumbent upon all of you. Don't let down Lord Ruler's expectations of you all. As for my God clan, I will assist you in the future. My God clan has sacrificed a lot. More than half of my direct clansmen died at the hands of Qin Feiyang. I don't want to end up in a situation where my clan is exterminated." The Divine King sighed and then lowered his head in silence. Neptune and the Dragon God looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. "Divine King, you're exaggerating. Lord Ruler and the Central Dynasty don't have any selfish motives. We didn't give you the power of the origin back then purely because Lord Ruler left in a hurry. All in all, to deal with Qin Feiyang and the others, all the major races have to work together." Yu Lao chuckled. No selfish motives? Even he didn't believe these words. But now he had to appease the Divine King. Otherwise, if he really didn't do anything, the Divine Kingdom's situation would be even worse. "Yu Lao, don't mind her. She's just saying it out of anger." The Divine King smiled apologetically. "That's right. How can the Divine King just stand by and watch the grudge between the God clan and Qin Feiyang?" The Supreme Being of the human clan also smiled. That's right. When we capture Qin Feiyang in the future, we'll leave it to you, Divine King, to deal with. When the time comes, you can find him to settle the old and new grudges." Yu Lao smiled and glanced at everyone. Back to the previous question, Neptune, you don't care, but it doesn't mean that your clansmen don't care. You've seen how much the sea race has against the dragon god now. This is also a problem I'm thinking about now. Neptune sighed. It was useless for him to believe in the dragon god. It had to be believed by his clansmen. Otherwise, the relationship between the Beast Clan and the Beast Clan could never be repaired. In fact, the crux of all the problems lies with Qin Feiyong and the others. As long as they die, all the problems will be solved. When will Qin Feiyong ask you out next time? Yu Lao asked. 3 days later, still at Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Neptune said truthfully. Then what's his condition? The Divine King was curious. The origin power in my hands. Neptune smiled bitterly. What? The Divine King raised his eyebrows and sneered. This kid's ambition is not small. The origin power of my divine kingdom is not something he can touch. Let me tell you, no matter what, you can't agree to his conditions. I don't want to agree either. But what about my clansmen? I can't just watch them die. Neptune sighed. Then do you know the consequences of him getting the origin power? Now, his strength has already surpassed us. When he gets the origin power in your hands, we won't be able to suppress him. As for your clansmen, let them die. The Divine King waved his hand and said casually, What do you mean? Neptune suddenly stood up, glared at the Divine King, and shouted, All the oceanic clansmen and hundreds of thousands of core clansmen, you want me to just watch them die? They really aren't your clansmen. Don't you feel sorry for them? What a joke. I'm thinking about the big picture. As for whether I feel sorry for them or not, let me tell you, no one knows this better than me. Back then, I watched more than half of the direct clansmen of the God clan die in front of me. The Divine King shouted angrily. Because of this, we can't repeat the same mistake. Neptune's eyes were gloomy. Fine. You can do whatever you want with this matter. But if you want me to help, it will never happen. Don't say that the God clan is not righteous. Back then, when the God clan suffered such a calamity, apart from the human clan and the purple gold divine dragon clan, did the oceanic clansmen and the beast clan help us? Not to mention help, not even a word of concern after the incident. They might even be laughing at the God clan behind our backs. The Divine King sneered, put down his teacup, got up, looked at Yu Lao and said, Anyway, what happened here has nothing to do with the God clan, so I'll take my leave first. After saying that, he opened a space-time passage and turned to leave. I'll go comfort her. The human clan supreme being's eyes flashed, looked at Yu Lao, smiled, and also got up and entered the space-time passage. Elder Yu, take a look, what kind of attitude is this? The dragon god was furious. Neptune also returned to the stone bench, lowered his head, his face full of anger. Sigh. Yu Lao couldn't help but sigh secretly, and said telepathically, This is all your fault. Why are you blaming us? The dragon god frowned. Back then, when the God clan suffered a calamity, no matter what, even if it was just an act, you should have gone to show some concern. Besides, who told you to expose your origin power so early? Isn't this causing trouble for us? If it were you, wouldn't you be dissatisfied if I didn't give you the origin power? Yu Lao couldn't help but feel a little angry in his heart. Hearing this, the dragon god's pupils immediately shrank. Yu Lao took a deep breath, looked up at the king and said, First, settle the grudge between your purple gold divine dragon clan and the dragon god. Now, bring the dragon god to the village and apologize to those old guys in person. Okay. The king nodded, got up, and opened a space-time passage. Wait. Suddenly, Yu Lao stopped the king, pondered for a while, glanced at the dragon god and sighed. This old man will go too. He was really worried about this dragon god. When the time comes, the grudge will not be settled, but it will become even worse. In the village, under an old locust tree, a group of old men and Yu Lao sat together. The king and Neptune stood at the side. The dragon god stood in front of the group of old men, but they didn't say anything. The atmosphere was a little heavy. Yu Lao looked at the group of old men and said helplessly, I say, you guys have been thinking for so long, can't you make a statement first? What statement? Did you say anything to us? Boss Ji looked at him suspiciously. Yu Lao was stunned and asked, Then what are you guys thinking about for so long? We were thinking, what are we going to eat for lunch today? Boss Ji said indifferently. Yu Lao's mouth twitched. Ji Lao turned to look at the second young mistress and waved. Old woman, go cook, just count little Wang in. As for the others, let them drink outside. The second young mistress chuckled and nodded. Okay. Hey. I say, you damn old man, I came all the way here to see you, and you don't even have tea or food. Is this how you treat your guests? Yu Lao stared at Ji Lao with dissatisfaction. Are you a guest? Besides, did we invite you? Ji Lao looked at him seriously and asked. Yu Lao's face darkened. Lao, don't talk nonsense with him, let's go fishing and have lunch. Boss Ji stood up and walked to the entrance of the village without looking back. Suddenly, he turned to the dragon god and said, You don't have much time left. Hurry up and find evidence, otherwise, don't blame us old men for not giving you face. The dragon god clenched his fists, his heart filled with anger. He came to apologize in person but was humiliated like this. Yu Lao also frowned and said angrily, Boss Ji, can you not go overboard? What did you say? Boss Ji suddenly turned and stared at Yu Lao. He was like an awakened beast, making Yu Lao's heart panic. Looking at the other elders, they were also staring at Elder Yu with unkind gazes. Yu Lao rubbed his forehead and said helplessly, Dragon God is also a junior in front of you as a senior, can't you be more magnanimous? Magnanimous? Ji Tianfeng is my great-grandson. How do you expect me to be magnanimous? Why don't you call your grandson out now and let me slap him to death, then I'll apologize to you. If you can forgive me, then I'll forgive the dragon god. Boss Ji sneered. Chapter 4184. Aren't you talking nonsense with me? Yu Lao's face darkened. Then what are you doing? You came all the way from the Central Dynasty just to ask the dragon god to come over and apologize? It's that simple, do I need you to come? Boss Ji despised. The dragon god agreed with this sentence. Inviting this person from the Central Dynasty didn't help much. Yu Lao frowned and said in a deep voice, Old thing, don't be so shameless. What? You still want to fight? Hearing this, Ji Laosher suddenly stood up and stared at Yu Lao, his eyes flashing with cold light. Yu Lao's eyelids twitched. How could he be so confused and forget where he was now? In this village, no matter how strong you are or how high your status is, it's useless. Because none of the old people here are easy to mess with. Apologize, that's fine too. Suddenly, Jizhou spoke. Yu Lao finally saw hope and turned to look at Jizhou, waiting for him to continue. Jizhou glanced at Yu Lao, then looked at the dragon god and said, However, it's too insincere for you to stand and apologize. The dragon god raised his eyebrows. If he didn't stand and apologize, should he kneel and apologize? Yes, kneel and apologize. Jizhou nodded. Impossible. The dragon god shouted resolutely. The ruler of the beast race, the dragon god who dominated a region, actually wanted him to kneel and apologize? Moreover, this matter wasn't done by him in the first place. Being able to come and apologize was already his greatest limit. How could he kneel now? Elder Yu also frowned. He looked at old Zhou and said, Isn't this request of yours too much? If you think it's too much, then get lost. Don't be an eyesore here. Jizhou said coldly. Yu Lao suddenly burned with anger. Asking him to get lost? No one had ever dared to say this word to him. What? Do you really think that you're superior to us just because you're from the Central Dynasty? Do you really think that we have to be respectful to you? Master Jizhou stared coldly at Yu Lao. Yu Lao clenched his fists. His face was frighteningly gloomy. In short, I'll just say one thing. If you can kneel down and apologize, we will accept it. No, get out of my sight right now. When the time is up, we will arrive at Dragon God Mountain on time. The last sentence was the most important. If you don't kneel down and apologize to us today, we will kill our way to Dragon God Mountain in the future. At that time, even if you kneel down and apologize, it will be useless. Yu Lao said gloomily, Dragon God, kneel down and apologize to them. Impossible. The dragon god's expression was extremely malevolent. You also want to disobey this old man's orders? Yu Lao shouted. I don't dare. But kneeling down and apologizing will never happen. If you want to kill your way to Dragon God Mountain, this sovereign will accompany you at any time. The dragon god stared at Master Jijio with a cold smile, then opened a space-time passage and turned to leave. "Stop right there," Yu Lao shouted. But the dragon god turned a deaf ear. Good, good, good. Don't regret it. This old man will return to the central dynasty and ask the emperor to confiscate your origin power." Yu Lao looked at him angrily. What? The dragon god's body stiffened. Neptune's gaze also suddenly trembled. He hurriedly ran to the dragon god's side and whispered, "Don't be impulsive. Without the origin power, not to mention Qin Feiyang, even the purple gold divine dragon clan can kill you without anyone knowing." The dragon god clenched his hands tightly, his face full of anger. "I know you're upset. But now there's no other way. Whether it's the purple gold divine dragon clan or Yu Lao, we can't offend them. You'll have to bear with it for now. When we find evidence in the future, you can fight back," Neptune secretly advised. The dragon god turned to look at Neptune. "Listen to me. And trust me, I'll definitely help you," Neptune transmitted his voice. "Thank you for always standing by my side," the dragon god secretly said. Of all the people in the divine kingdom, only Neptune had always trusted him unconditionally. "There's nothing to thank me for. Let's get through this first. There's still plenty of time in the future." When he said there's still plenty of time in the future, a trace of killing intent flashed across Neptune's eyes. The dragon god understood. He turned to look at Master Jijio and nodded. "All right, this sovereign will do as you wish." Saying so, he knelt on the ground, lowered his head, gritted his teeth, and spoke word by word. "I apologize, please forgive me." The elders were a bit surprised. He actually knelt down and apologized? It wasn't easy for the dragon god to do that. Yu Lao spoke in a low voice. "He's already knelt down and apologized, what else do you want?" "I didn't do anything." Boss Ji turned to the king and spoke. "The dragon god has shown his sincerity. Let's end this here." "Yes." The king nodded. Boss Ji then looked at the dragon god and spoke. "Get up, the ground is dirty." The dragon god rose to his feet and swept his gaze across the group of elders and monarchs. Then, he turned around and left without saying a word. This junior will take his leave. Neptune clasped his fist at the elders and smiled, then chased after him. Yu Lao glanced at Boss Ji's group with a dark expression, then opened a space-time tunnel and prepared to leave. "Not staying for dinner?" Boss Ji asked. "We've been friends for so many years. It's rare for us to get together. We should at least have a few drinks." Ji Lao chuckled as well. "I'm afraid the wine here will shorten my lifespan." Yu Lao snorted, then stepped into the space-time tunnel and disappeared without a trace. "Old thing." Boss Ji smiled coldly and looked at Ji Laosher. "Did you record it?" "Yes." Ji Laosher bared his teeth, then raised his arm and opened his palm, revealing a transmission stone. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Looking at the transmission stone in Ji Laosher's hand, the king was shocked. "Ji Tianfeng's death. Of course we have to give everyone an explanation. Or else how can the purple gold divine dragon clan establish our dominance in the divine fruit market?" Boss Ji smirked and looked at Ji Laosher. "Send the recorded video to Little Wang." "All right." Ji Lao nodded. Buzz. The next moment, the king received the video, which was the scene of the dragon god kneeling and apologizing. The king frowned. "Grandpa, if this video gets out, won't the dragon god hate us for the rest of our lives?" "It's just a dragon god. If he hates us, then so be it. Spread it out immediately. I'd like to see who dares to bully the purple gold divine dragon clan after this." Boss Ji waved his hand. "Just a dragon god?" The king smiled bitterly. Only these old men in front of him would dare to say such words. He asked, "You're not going to keep me for dinner? What's there to eat? Are you a rice bucket?" Scram. Boss Ji glared at him and shouted, "Why did you suddenly turn against me?" The king opened the space-time tunnel and left with a bitter heart. Ji Laosher looked at the king's back and asked Boss Ji in confusion, "Big brother, when did little Wang piss you off again? Why are you so angry at him?" "He didn't teach his son well. If I don't get angry at him, who should I get angry at? You?" Boss Ji glared at him. Ji Laosher laughed dryly and said, "Then you should vent your anger at him. But why don't I understand what you mean by not teaching your son well? You must be a pig in your previous life." Boss Ji said in annoyance and walked towards the river alone. What do you mean? Ji Laoshi was stunned. Ji Laoshi shook his head and said, Big brother is angry about young Master Ji, and the others challenging those two young men. Ji Laoshi was stunned and frowned. That's nothing. If they can win, of course it's nothing. But the point is, they lost to those two young men. Moreover, they took the initiative to challenge them. How embarrassing is that? Ji Laoshi shook his head and sighed. Seems like it. If it was Qin Feiyong, the outcome would probably be different. Ji Laoshi nodded and muttered. Qin Feiyong? If young Master Ji and the others were as outstanding as Qin Feiyong and the others, then Big Brother wouldn't be angry. Moreover, those two young men were brought by Chief Yu Lao. If they lost to Chief Yu Lao's people, Big Brother would naturally be even angrier. Ji Laoshi smiled. Ji Laoshi nodded and said, It seems that Big Brother still hasn't let go of what happened back then. Let go? With Big Brother's temper, is it possible? Ji Laoshi shook his head. It had to be said. The king's efficiency was quite good. In less than half a day, the news of the dragon god kneeling down and apologizing spread throughout the 4 great continents. Almost everyone knew. Everyone had a new understanding of the power of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. No matter who you were, as long as you provoked the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, they would not let you go. Get lost. Dragon God Mountain. Looking at the beast gods around him, the dragon god roared. These beast gods were here to report this matter. When the dragon god heard about it, he naturally couldn't hold back the anger in his heart. The group of beast gods looked at each other and could only turn around and leave. It seems that this matter really stimulated the dragon god greatly. What a joke. When has the dragon god suffered such humiliation? This Qin Feiyong really deserves to die 10,000 times. Now the beast race had almost become a rat on the street because of the matter between Ji Tianfeng and the sea race. Even these beast gods were no longer as surprised as before when they met people from the other races. There was only disgust in their eyes. And all of this was caused by Qin Feiyong and the others. Therefore they hated Qin Feiyong and the others to the bone. However, although their killing intent was strong, they didn't dare to make a move. Qin Feiyong's powerful strength and terrifying methods were like a mountain pressing down on their heads, making them almost suffocate. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Neptune arrived as promised. Seeing that Qin Feiyong hadn't arrived yet, he closed his eyes and waited silently. In the distance, a few people happened to pass by, and when they saw Neptune, a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. That seemed to be Neptune? What was Neptune doing here? Could it be he had an agreement with Qin Feiyong? Immediately, the few of them stopped in their tracks and landed on the mountain peak below, looking at Neptune from afar. Time passed quietly. About half an hour passed. Swish. Finally, a space-time passage appeared. A familiar figure walked out of the passage. At the same time, Neptune opened his eyes and looked up at the figure. 2 cold lights burst out of his eyes. Chapter 4185. It was Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong walked to the opposite side of Neptune and said with a faint smile, These few days, you must have discussed with the dragon god and Yu Lao on how to deal with me. How do you know about Yu Lao? Neptune said in a low voice. This, Qin Feiyong's lips curled up slightly, pursing a playful smile as he asked, If I say that someone from your sea tribe tipped me off, would you believe me? What kind of joke is this? Neptune couldn't help but sneer. First, he instigated the relationship between the dragon god and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. Then, he instigated the relationship between the dragon god and the sea tribe. Now, he wanted to instigate the internal relationship of the sea tribe? This person was really insidious. All right, I'll tell you. Qin Feiyong laughed. Neptune immediately held his breath and waited for the result. Actually, it's someone from your sea tribe who tipped me off. But it's not convenient for me to reveal who it is. If you have the ability, go and investigate it yourself. Qin Feiyong smiled. Neptune suddenly clenched his hands and said in a low voice, Do you think it's fun to play with me? Forget it if you don't believe me. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips and said indifferently, Have you considered my conditions? Neptune frowned. Could it be that there was really a spy in the sea tribe? Qin Feiyong said, "This is already the third and last judgment. Don't test my patience." Huff. Neptune took a deep breath and temporarily put aside the matter of the spy. He said in a low voice, "Origin source strength is impossible. You can state other conditions, and I will try my best to satisfy you." "Other conditions?" Qin Feiyong muttered, pondered for a while, and said with a smile, "Then 100 ultimate profound meanings of ultimate laws. You must be dreaming. 100 ultimate profound meanings of ultimate laws. Even if you want me to snatch them, there's nowhere to do so." Neptune roared. He really dared to speak. In his entire life, he had never seen so many ultimate law inheritances. "That's right. You won't be able to take out 100 inheritances. As for the others, I'm not interested in them. So I'll take the origin energy. I'll give you 3 breaths to consider." Qin Feiyong smiled. Neptune's face sank. The source strength was the only method he had to suppress the 3 races, and it was also the only method he had to deal with Qin Feiyong. Once he gave it to Qin Feiyong, wouldn't Qin Feiyong be able to slaughter the sea race in the future? 3 breaths have passed. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed coldly. The next moment, a corpse appeared in front of him. His entire body reeked of stench. He was one of the hundreds of thousands of core members of the Sea Clan imprisoned in the Soul-Sealing Valley. At this moment, apparently he was already dead. "Now with every breath that passes, I'll kill a member of your oceanic race. Until all of you are dead." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. With a wave of his hand, the corpse of the young oceanic race flew in front of Neptune. Neptune looked down at the corpse, his face full of grief and indignation. At this moment, another corpse appeared. This was an old oceanic race with a foul stench on his body. There was no sign of life. With a wave of Qin Feiyong's hand, the corpse flew in front of Neptune again. "Stop, stop!" Neptune roared, glaring at Qin Feiyong. Killing without spilling blood while talking and laughing, this was a devil. But before his voice faded, a third corpse appeared. This was a middle-aged oceanic raceman who had already died. His eyes were wide open, filled with resentment and fear before his death. It looked quite terrifying. Qin Feiyong was completely unmoved. He kept his word and killed a person every breath. Okay. I agree." The appearance of 3 corpses in a row made Neptune extremely fearful. He quickly nodded. The death of every core member was a loss for the oceanic race. "Wouldn't it be better if you did this earlier? You'll only be satisfied after killing 3 members of your race." Qin Feiyong smiled. Looking at the smile on Qin Feiyong's face, Neptune was more and more certain that this was the reincarnation of a devil. Because no one could be so calm when doing such a thing. "I have to see them first," Neptune said in a deep voice. "You're not qualified to negotiate. Of course, you don't have to doubt my character. I mean what I say." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. He definitely couldn't let Neptune see these oceanic race people first. Because once Neptune saw them first, the fact that these oceanic race people were deprived of their ultimate profound meaning would be exposed. That time, maybe Neptune wouldn't rescue them anymore. Then wouldn't his efforts these days be in vain? So, he had to get the origin source energy first. "I really don't trust your character." Neptune's face was gloomy. "Okay, then I'll continue." Qin Feiyong smiled. "Don't." Neptune's eyes trembled and hurriedly reached out to stop Qin Feiyong. His eyes flickered for a moment before he nodded and said, "Okay, I hope you can keep your word." After saying that, he waved his hand and a ray of origin source energy appeared. It was like a cluster of flames, only the size of an adult's palm, but it exuded a terrifying aura. Qin Feiyong looked at this ray of origin source energy and his eyes couldn't help but shine. As long as he got this ray of origin source energy, he could go to the dragon god to collect his debt. He had long found this bastard an eyesore. Neptune was still a little worried and frowned. "Why don't you make a blood oath to guarantee that you will get the origin source energy and return the sea god and hundreds of thousands of people to me?" "Okay." Qin Feiyong nodded and decisively made a blood oath. He didn't ignore Neptune on this matter. As long as he got the origin source energy, these Sea Clan people would lose their value. What was the point of keeping them in his hands? When the oath seal descended, Neptune was completely relieved. With a wave of his hand, the origin source energy cut through the sky and flew in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was extremely excited and said, Long Chun, you can deprive Tianpeng and the other sea gods of their ultimate meaning. Okay. Devil's Land. When Long Chun heard this, he immediately got up and went to the castle. Where are they? Neptune asked. Don't worry, I will definitely return them to you. Qin Feiyang played with the origin source energy. With a thought, a loud clang sounded and the origin source energy turned into a 3-foot-long sword. With another thought, the origin source energy turned into a shield. It was really formed by his heart. With this origin source energy, the dragon god was nothing to be afraid of. Just you wait, your death is coming. Qin Feiyang whispered. What did you say? Neptune heard Qin Feiyang's muttering and immediately became vigilant. Don't be nervous, I'm not talking about you. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Not good. You Lao dragon god, inner demons, Lu Jijin, all of you are here. This time, Mu Qing's voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and looked around. Seeing this, Neptune also looked around, his eyes full of suspicion. You still haven't given up. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at Neptune with ridicule in his eyes. What do you mean? Neptune frowned. Qin Feiyang sneered. You Lao and the dragon god, weren't you the one who arranged it in advance? What? They're here. I really didn't know they would come. Neptune's face changed. I don't know. Qin Feiyang looked at Neptune's expression and didn't seem to be lying. It seemed that it was indeed Yu Lao and the dragon god who acted on their own. He asked, how far are they? Very close. Perhaps they will arrive in the next moment. Mu Qing replied. Qin Feiyang frowned and looked at Neptune. I'll go first, I'll let them go later. After saying that, he opened a space-time tunnel and ran in without looking back. Neptune subconsciously chased after him, but suddenly stopped. With the blood oath, he wasn't afraid that Qin Feiyang would go back on his words. Sure enough, as Mu Qing expected, just as Qin Feiyang left, several figures descended on Thousand Phoenix Mountain. It was Yu Lao, the dragon god, the inner demons, and Lu Jijin. Where are they? Yu Lao asked. They seem to know that you're here, so they left first. Neptune sighed. Left? Dragon god looked at the surrounding void in a daze and said angrily, Aren't you going to stop him? I've already given him the origin force, how can I stop him? If he didn't kill me just now, I should have already gone to burn incense and pray. Neptune said angrily. Without the origin force, it would be too easy for Qin Feiyang to kill him. Tong Tian'ai is really a hindrance. Yu Lao clenched his fists slightly. If he didn't have the all-seeing eye, how could Qin Feiyang grasp their whereabouts so clearly? Sigh. Neptune sighed. This was the terror of the strongest battle soul. What was even more terrifying was that most of the possessors of the strongest battle soul were still by Qin Feiyang's side. Then did he say when he would let them go? Inner demons asked. He will definitely let them go. Because he made a blood oath. If he didn't know that you're here, he might have already let them go. As soon as Neptune finished speaking, the voice transmission stone rang. He quickly took it out. An old man from the Sea Clan appeared and hurriedly said, Lord, the Sea Clan is back. Where? Neptune quickly asked. Sea God Island. The old man from the Sea Clan said. Although the Sea God Island was destroyed, it was rebuilt in the past few days. So fast? Neptune was stunned. But, the old man from the Sea Clan hesitated and said in a deep voice, You should come back and see for yourself. As soon as Neptune heard this, an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. He immediately put away the voice transmission stone, opened a space-time tunnel, and descended on the Sea God Island. Yu Lao and the other three followed closely behind. The sky above the island was currently filled with a sea of people. Almost all of the Sea Clan on the Sea God Island were here. They gathered together and looked at Tianpeng and the other sea gods in the middle. In addition to Tianpeng and the other sea gods, the hundreds of thousands of core members of the Sea Clan were all covered in a foul stench. Moreover, whether it was Tianpeng, the sea gods, or the hundreds of thousands of core members, they were all like a pile of mud, paralyzed in the void. Their faces were ashen and filled with despair. "Get out of the way." The Sea King's voice rang out. "Lord." Everyone quickly retreated to the side. The old man from the Sea Clan who had sent the message earlier ran in front of Neptune and pointed at the sea gods, saying with a sorrowful expression, "Look at them, what have they become now? What's going on?" Neptune glanced at them. They had already escaped from the clutches of Qin Feiyang, so why were they still in despair? Chapter 4186. Lord Neptune, you have to uphold justice for us. This Qin Feiyang and Long Chun are beasts. When the hundreds of thousands of corps members saw Neptune arrive, they all knelt down in the air and shouted. Neptune glanced at the group of people. These people had their sea of qi destroyed and had no cultivation base. So for a time, whether it was Neptune or the dragon god, they did not notice that these people's ultimate meaning had been taken away. Tianpeng? When the dragon god saw Tianpeng, his eyes trembled slightly. He hurriedly walked over and asked, "What happened to you?" "Lord Dragon God." Tianpeng's body trembled as he slowly raised his head to look at the dragon god. His tears immediately flowed down as he shouted, "Lord, I beg you, you must kill Qin Feiyang and Long Chan. These two bastards, they actually, don't worry, speak slowly." The dragon god comforted him. What the hell happened? Why were even Tianpeng and the various sea gods so desperate? One must know. Tianpeng and the various sea gods, what kind of storms and waves had they not experienced? Under normal circumstances, it was absolutely impossible for them to be so desperate. You are the sea god of the Sea Clan, the beast god of the Beast Clan. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, what kind of scandal is this? Quickly get up and explain clearly. Neptune stared at the group of people and shouted. However, no one got up. The various sea gods seemed to be numb, and did not even have the slightest reaction. In the face of such a thing, the stronger one was, the greater the blow one would receive. It was just as the Sea King had said. They were the sea gods of the Sea Clan and had always been high and mighty. But now, all their ultimate meaning had been taken away, and they fell from the sky to the ground. How could experts like them withstand such a change? Sigh. The old ancestor of the Sea Clan who sent the message sighed and looked at Neptune. Lord, their ultimate meaning. At this point, the voice of the old ancestor of the Sea Clan also became choked. The grief and indignation on his face became even more intense. "Speak," Neptune bellowed. The old man of the sea race looked at the sea gods and roared furiously. "Their ultimate mysteries have been stolen by Qin Feiyang and Long Chan." "What? Deprive them of their ultimate profound?" Neptune trembled both physically and mentally. The dragon god and Yu Lao were also dumbfounded. The ultimate profundities of the heavenly Peng, the sea beasts, and the hundreds of thousands of core members of the sea tribe were all taken away? Yes, the ultimate profound that we worked so hard to comprehend was all taken away by them. Without the ultimate profound, what's the point of living? I hate it. Hundreds of thousands of core members of the oceanic species roared towards the sky, their voices filled with hatred. Impossible. Neptune came back to his senses and shook his head vigorously. He ran to the sea gods and roared, "Tell me, is this real? Hurry up and tell me." He was like a madman, shaking the sea gods with all his might. 20 sea gods, hundreds of thousands of core members, this was the foundation of the sea tribe, the pillars of the sea tribe. Now that their ultimate profound had been taken away, it meant that their foundation had collapsed and their pillars had fallen. Therefore, he could not accept this fact. The eyes of the 20 sea gods were empty and colorless. "Hurry up and answer me. I beg you, answer me, this is not real," Neptune roared hysterically. In the end, he squatted on the ground powerlessly and cried bitterly. The sea tribe was finished. It was completely finished. What? Soon, the king, the divine king, the human race, and the beast gods received this news. They all stood up in shock, their faces filled with disbelief. The ultimate profound of the heavenly Peng, the sea beasts, and hundreds of thousands of core members of the sea tribe were all taken away by Qin Feiyang and Long Chan? What kind of joke was this? This kind of thing, unless they were willing, who could take it away? Could it be the golden-winged wolf king? In a large hall, the king looked at heavenly Lord Ji below and asked. This was because the white-eyed wolf had the ability to take away the ultimate profound of the laws. It's not the golden-winged wolf king. Heavenly Lord Ji shook his head. It's not. Then who among them still possesses this ability? The king was surprised. I'm afraid you'll never think of this person in your life. He is Long Chen. Heavenly Lord Ji said word by word. What? Long Chen? The king was dumbfounded. That's right. According to the core members of the Sea tribe who suffered, this Long Chen seems to have mastered a secret technique called the soul controlling technique, which can turn all living things in the world into puppets. They will do whatever he wants them to do. The most terrifying thing is that this soul-controlling technique can still retain their consciousness even if they are turned into puppets. Furthermore, once the white-eyed wolves' battle souls are stripped of their laws, they'll completely vanish. They won't be able to be used by themselves. But with the soul-controlling art, the laws that they've stripped away will be dissolved. It's the same as the inheritance. There's no difference. Heavenly Lord Ji said. Soul-controlling technique. The king murmured. His face was full of disbelief. Was this the reason why Qin Feiyang valued Long Chen so much? If that was the case, how many ultimate profound inheritances did Qin Feiyang have in his hands? Heavenly Lord Ji said suspiciously, Father, you the divine king, and Jizun went to the Black Tortoise world a few days ago. Didn't you find this? No. The king shook his head and smiled bitterly. These Sea tribe members have been imprisoned in the Black Tortoise world's soul-sealing valley. At that time we also wanted to go and take a look, but we were stopped by Qin Feiyang's two subordinates. Later, when we questioned this kid, he said he would give us a surprise. I think this is the surprise he was talking about. This is a scare, okay? Heavenly Lord Ji was taken aback. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. This bastard, you've mastered such a terrifying secret technique, yet you didn't tell us? The king was furious. How should I put it? After all, this matter is of great importance. If it were you or me, we would definitely keep it a secret. However, this soul-controlling technique is truly too astonishing. With this soul-controlling technique, wouldn't the ultimate profundity be easily obtained? I reckon that this is why they came to our divine kingdom. There aren't many people in the sky cloud realm who have mastered the ultimate profoundness of the strongest law. So this soul-controlling technique is useless. However, our divine kingdom is different. There are countless people who have mastered the ultimate profoundness of the strongest law. Just by casually setting up a trap, you can obtain a large number of inheritances. It's hard to imagine how many experts will be born by Qin Feiyang's side in the future, who have mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Lord Ji was filled with emotions. Fortunately, he had chosen to reconcile with Qin Feiyang back then. Otherwise, when he faced Qin Feiyang in the future, he would feel his scalp tingle just thinking about it. Most importantly, if they became enemies with Qin Feiyang, the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan might follow in the footsteps of the merman in the future. This brat, he's simply treating our divine kingdom as a big treasure trove. But then again, who exactly is this Long Chen? He has mastered such a terrifying secret technique. You have to know that ordinary secret techniques can't control an overlord at this level, let alone make them willingly extract the ultimate profoundness. The king was curious. Then why don't we ask great-grandpa and great-grandma to ask Dong Zhengyang? If Dong Zhengyang is so familiar with them, then he must know Long Chen very well. Heavenly Lord Ji said. I know Long Chen's background. He's a dragon from the ancient world. But his father Lord Jiu also asked Dong Zhengyang last time. But Dong Zhengyang was very cautious about this question and didn't answer directly. He only said that Long Chen's father is a super powerful grand cultivator. He also said that even Qin Feiyang is no match for Long Chen's father. The king frowned. What? Heavenly Lord Ji was shocked. Qin Feiyang had mastered 3,000 incarnations, the Eye of Heaven, the Dharma laws of life and death and two will of heaven. With such strength, he still wasn't a match for Long Chen's father? How was this possible? So, how powerful was Long Chen's father? Now, we can basically confirm that the main reason why Qin Feiyang is so good to Long Chen must be the reason. But then again, the way these two get along is really strange. They have a blood feud but they act like brothers. The king shook his head. This might be where their charm lies. Heavenly Lord Ji said with a smile. Maybe. The king nodded and a smile appeared on his face. But looking at their performance now, there's a high chance that they will overthrow the ruler in the future. Yes. I've roughly calculated that Qin Feiyang should be able to obtain 40 to 50,000 ultimate intents of laws from the sea gods and the hundreds of thousands of core members of the merfolk. This is a conservative estimate. There might be more. With so many ultimate intents of laws, how many will of heaven can be created? Once these people come out of seclusion, I guess it'll be the time when Qin Feiyang officially declares war on the central dynasty. Father, we have to be prepared. Heavenly Lord Ji said. Yes. The king nodded. Buzz. Suddenly, the voice transmission stone rang. The king took out the stone and the dragon god's figure appeared. The king was slightly stunned and said with a smile, Lord Dragon God, what can I do for you? Are you gloating over my misfortune? The dragon god stared at the king gloomily. Gloating? What do you mean? I don't understand. The king was puzzled. I don't believe that you haven't received news about Tianpeng and the other sea gods. The dragon god said in a deep voice. What happened to them? I really don't know. Have they been rescued? The king was doubtful. The dragon god clenched his fists and said, Yu Lao ordered you, the divine king, and the autarchs to come to the sea god's island immediately. There's something important to discuss. What is it? The king was puzzled. You'll know when you come. Remember, it's immediately. After saying that, the dragon god's figure quickly dissipated. Heavenly Lord Ji retracted his gaze and looked at the king. Father, what are they trying to do? The king thought for a while and shook his head with a smile. What else? They must be discussing how to deal with Qin Feiyang and the others. After all, Qin Feiyang has so many ultimate arcanas. If we don't quickly come up with a plan, not to mention the 4 continents, even the central dynasty will be threatened. So, the central dynasty is going all out. Heavenly Lord Ji frowned. I don't know. It depends on the decision of the emperor of the central dynasty. You don't have to worry about this. Continue to put on a show for the sea race and the beast race. Do your best to capture Qin Feiyang. Also, speed up the soul line and crystal veins I told you to collect. The divine king smiled. Okay. Heavenly Lord Ji nodded and asked, what about the elixirs? When are you going to give them out? After we get rid of the spies. A cold light flashed in the divine king's eyes. Every time he thought of the 2 spies of the purple gold divine dragons, he felt extremely uncomfortable. One was his nephew and the other was the person he respected and trusted the most, but they betrayed him. This was unforgivable. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.